Good afternoon, everybody. We'll go ahead and get this meeting started. Sorry, we're running a little bit late. My name is Ethan Collier, and I'll be chairing today's meeting of the Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission. A couple things to go over before we get started. Hopefully, all of you have the agenda there in front of you, or there's a copy of it at the back of the room. If you could follow along closely, because at times during the meeting, we do move quickly. Planning Commission staff has gotten this packet, and the staff mailed this packet out to the Planning Commission. We've gotten it, had it for about a week, and Planning Commission's had the opportunity to review it in advance of today's meeting. So there are times where we move quickly, so make sure you're following along in the agenda so that you know where we're at. What I'll do is in each case, I will ask if there's any opposition here. I'll read off the case number. If you're here in opposition, please make sure to raise your hand so that we can see you, because otherwise we could take action on a case without having heard from you, and we do want to hear from you. If you're here and you're in opposition, raise your hand. And what we'll do is we'll hear first from staff. They'll present what we have here in our packet. The applicant will come up to the microphone here, and the applicant will have 7 minutes to state the reason for their request. After we've heard from the applicant, they can sit down. There may be some questions back and forth between the planning commissions and the applicant. And then after that, if you're here in opposition, please get out of your chair and come up and line up over here on the right side of the room behind the podium. Sometimes there's a number of people that want to speak. And by opposition, we do mean anybody with any questions or concerns. So sometimes you're not necessarily in opposition, but you do have questions or concerns. That would be the time to ask them. When you come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Make sure that the red light's on so that we can hear you. And I will say that the time allotted for all comments from opposition is 9 minutes. So if I see that there are a number of people that want to speak, maybe there's 6 or 7 people that want to speak, we only have 9 minutes. So while it is unfortunate, at times I do have to interrupt people and just remind you that there are other people that may want to speak. After we hear from opposition, they can sit down, and then we'll hear from the applicant. They'll have 2 minutes to get back up and respond to anything that they've heard from the opposition. So with that, Mr. Schultz, is there anything in particular that we need to cover as it relates to the agenda?
No, there's several items on the agenda that have withdrawn beside them that submitted their paperwork in time, so we will not be acting on those today. If it's number 6 under new business, that's MR 2026-59. That's a right-of-way closure on the 5900 block of Ragnar Drive. The applicant was withdrawing that case. Item number 14, MR 2026-68. That's another right-of-way closure. The applicant has withdrawn that case. And number 16 and 17, which is 2026-70, Thomas Heaton, 2630 Glass Street, has withdrawn his request. And then 2026-71, Thomas Heaton for 2632 Glass Street has withdrawn that request. I believe there's several others on the agenda today that want to withdraw, but they have to ask for that today.
And did you say 2026-0036?
No, that's under old business. He has submitted withdrawal, but since this case was deferred last
Gotcha.
month, Planning Commission needs to take action to accept that.
Okay, that's great. All right. So for those cases that have been withdrawn, if you were here in regards to those won't be heard today.
And they should have stickers on those signs the case has been withdrawn, so
Okay.
they may not be here
Fantastic.
today.
All right. We'll go ahead and get started. First case on our agenda under old business is HCSD-26-7. This is a preliminary plat for Snow Dove subdivision. It's lots 1 through 24 located at 7631 Mahan Gap Road. Staff is recommended to defer. Is the applicant present? And do you want to defer? Well, you'd like to speak in regards to that? And are you here in opposition? Sir, you raised your hand?
I had comments on that one.
Okay, you'd like to speak on that? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, we do have opposition to this subdivision plat we've
Okay.
received.
thank you.
And while the applicant's coming up, last month this was deferred. I'm not aware that any changes have been made to this preliminary plat. There's some requirements that are in Plan Hamilton that this development plat is not meeting in terms of setback from the existing right-of-way for water quality features, a landscape buffer is not shown on the plat. And there's some other perimeter buffer requirements that are required under Plan Hamilton. That's one of the reasons for deferral last month. I'm not aware if this has been worked out or not. Maybe the applicant can speak to that.
Plan Hamilton, those.
Name and
require-
address.
Oh, Joseph Ingram Gore and Associates, sorry.
And address.
115 South Level Avenue,
Thank you.
Chattanooga. The water quality requirements they were enacted at the end of last meeting. When we turned the plat in, they weren't in effect.
The development standards, Mr. Chairman, development standards were in Plan Hamilton. As part of the Plan Hamilton document, those development standards were in there when it was adopted by this body in September. All we simply did last month, this body recommended to add those standards to the zoning code in terms of overlays. So when people's reviewing this, could be captured. But those standards have been in there since September, and it applies to any new major plat. That's my understanding. Maybe Nathan can correct me if that's different interpretation, but it was in there since September.
I'll let you, like I said, what we recommend and what we do, but we're fine. We can go ahead and defer it again. I just think, we turned everything back in on the plat, and for us to march forward and kind of even meet like the traffic impact study and some of the other things, we got to get through preliminary plat. We're going to have to meet all the requirements of Hamilton County. We just need to move forward on preliminary plat. And that's kind of where we're hung up.
Any questions for Mr. Ingram?
I was
Mr.
just going to
Genoway?
say, I haven't seen a revised preliminary plat that shows the buffering and everything that is required. So
That's what I said. And I'm not going to argue about it, but obviously that buffer and all that was at the end of last month's agenda.
that's when we proposed adding it to the zoning code.
Yeah.
But Plan Hamilton's been in effect since September, just like Brian talked about. And it says very clearly in the plan that it applies to all new major subdivisions.
If then let's defer it.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Scott Lamford. I'm currently at 7572 Daybreak, but I own the 3 lots adjacent to the Snowy Hill development, directly downhill from them. And obviously some of the stuff that was brought up, the setback issues is one thing. But some of the things that I noted in there that said they are not liable for any water runoff from this site that damages neighbor's property, and extreme care can be taken by others to prevent this from happening. I guess my question is, who is others, and why would anybody else be responsible for protecting their own property from the development going on this property? It seems like everything with Hamilton County planning, all the water runoff, the storm runoff, anything should be handled by the developer of that property. And that phrase being put in there kind of looks like they are expecting issues with runoff and are trying to shift that liability. I'd like that removed completely and develop it, do whatever you want, but it needs to be on the developer to make sure that runoff doesn't happen affect adjacent properties. And then also the mention of stormwater discharge into a sinkhole. I'm not a developer. I don't know what that means, but that seems like it could be a problem if the sinkhole clogs, if it overflows, if it gets bigger. That may be a normal thing. I don't know. But yeah, the big thing is just for me, being literally adjacent to it, is making sure that any impact done to neighboring properties is the responsibility of that developer and not pushed on to the neighboring property owners.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, what this gentleman's referring to is the last note on that plat that he referenced is it's an unusual note that's on the plat. The Ingram Gore are not responsible for the stormwater. It may be others. That's what he's referring to. I think is a note on that plat, very bottom.
Gotcha.
Kim Helton, 8618 Snow Hill Road. It's the very last note on the plat. And so those setback requirements are in the countryside residential and rural corridor. And rural corridor has a little bit more of a setback requirement than countryside residential. So it's in both of those place types in Plan Hamilton. And, you know, since that was already approved and this body is the only body that approves plats, and you have adopted that, I think that it should be followed. And yes, there is concern about what will happen if this sinkhole overflows, it gets plugged. There's also a house at the back side of that where the water would flow down. You know, that could affect some of these outfalls for the stormwater ponds are going directly to the neighboring property. And so are they properly sized to not cause flooding on that property? And then one of the stormwater ponds is next to the road. There's also concern about this location. I drive a high-profile vehicle. I drive this often. Very first time I drove it, I came to the end of Snow Hill Road, Mahan Gap. I look left. I'm like, yeah, I don't see anybody coming. I look right. Next thing I know, there's a car right there. You cannot see over that hill. And I'm very high, and we have a truck that's very high. You cannot see. You just have to look down at the bottom of that hill, you know, give like 5-10 seconds, and then pull out. So it's a very dangerous, so to have another road opposite of that, it's going to make it even more dangerous. That really needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Mr. Gore. Ingram.
I'd rather have that name. Yeah, the stormwater, I made a note I misconstrued, but it's a New Hamilton County note that says that Hamilton County is not responsible for the stormwater runoff and that we own it. And as far as discharge of sinkholes, Dennis and I are as cautious as anybody in the city. We don't count on the sinkhole functioning. You know, we'll pull an injection well permit, but we always design our detention ponds such that if the sinkhole plugged, we wouldn't discharge any more than historic. Same with the rest of the property. We're always looking to be less than the historic. But I think I was just confused about the rural corridor thing. And like I said, in Mahan Gap's a state route. So we've kind of talked to TDOT about what we're going to have to do on Mahan Gap as far as the embankment our side and all that. So that was the only, we sure didn't want to have that lined up, but we couldn't offset it either, be more dangerous. So I think that's, like I said, we're going to advance the design once we get through preliminary plat, but for right now, if that's where we need to be to defer it again, that's not a problem for us.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, this will be the last time it can be deferred. Next month, action will have to take place, whether that's a denial or approval next month. And
I think there's any hill we can't to get the preliminary plat.
Thank you. What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to defer, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm guessing that that's for 30 days, but also sounds like it can only be 30 days.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case on our agenda is item 2. It's HCSD-26-10 preliminary plat, Hamilton on Hunter subdivision, lots 1600, 1723 Pfizer Drive, Oilskin Drive, Passport Drive, Saab Drive, and Berman Drive. And staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition? And the applicant's present. And any questions about the conditions or anything like that? What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you.
So who do we have recusing on this one? Mr. Maybe, Nathan, and then Dr. Hollander voted no. Is that correct?
Okay, next case on the agenda first item under new business is HCSD-26-13. This is final plat for Chestnut Valley subdivision, phase 1B, lots 1 through 46, 352 through 355, located at 3587 Bill Jones Road. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Any questions? What's the will of the commission?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2 under new business is HCSD 26 14. This is a preliminary plat for Flipper Bend Phase 5 subdivision, lots 96 and 152. 152 through 217, located on Roberts Mill Road. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? The applicant, any questions?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is HSDV 26-1. This is a variance for 1538 Thrasher Pike. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Any questions about the staff recommendation and the conditions? None? Okay.
Move to approve with conditions as stated.
We have a motion to approve and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 on our agenda is HCSDV 26-2. This is a variance located at 8275 Claudine Circle. And staff is recommended to deny. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Are you the applicant? You're the applicant for this case? 8275? Okay. You just look like you might have, you weren't quite sure, so I was just making sure. Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, this is a variance request to the Hamilton County Subdivision Regulations, Section 402. That section requires for lots without frontage on a public road, they must be 5 acres in size along a private road. So this variance is to create 4 lots less than 5 acres with access on a private road, which is Claudine Circle. They're also showing 50-foot wide lots. This is zoned A1. If this is approved, they would need to get variances from Board of Appeals on lot frontage. That's another step the applicant would have to take. The review committee reviewed this and felt there was no hardship. This would disagree with the subdivision requirements and recommended approval. It's currently 1 flag lot. You can see highlighted in the red, 1 flag lot. Claudine Circle is this circle here in the middle. It's providing access. That's a private drive. And you may remember, or maybe not, we also had a request on the same property in 2023 to create 1 flag on the same property. There was opposition at that time. Staff recommended to deny that request because there was no hardship and simply wanting another lot. Staff recommended to deny. Ultimately, the case was withdrawn at Planning Commission due to the opposition. But this would create 4 lots that are 50-foot wide on a private road. I think these are a little less than half an acre on a private road. So staff recommended to deny this request.
Any questions for staff? All right. Ma'am?
Oh, he's finished? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir. Instead of denying, respectfully, could I get a deferral for 30 days so I can find out what all the concerns are with the staff and to also see if there's any oppositions before you deny me, please?
Yeah, you're asking for a deferral, Mr.
Yeah.
Schultz?
Yes,
That
sir.
that would be fine, right?
That's fine with staff,
And
yes.
so we would defer till next month. And that would give you an opportunity to talk to your neighbors, make sure there's no opposition. And then also, Mr. Schultz, would you be able to meet with the applicant and be able to explain like what you've told us in detail such that
Yeah,
these could theoretically, there wouldn't be 4 lots, right? There would maybe be 3.
3, something like that. Yeah, Trina and I would be glad to
Okay.
meet with her.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
All right, I would entertain a motion to defer for 30 days. We have a motion to defer for 30 days and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Were y'all here in opposition to that? Can you come up to the microphone? Come on up to the microphone if you don't mind.
We got these notifications, a few of the neighbors in that area. And it's the first time we heard of it, didn't have any idea what it's going to be used for. And I see now that you want to build some properties, some homes. But we just want to make sure it does not cause a decline in the property values of the existing homes and neighbors. And that's our primary concern.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record?
So what now?
Can you state your name and address?
All right, my name is Barry C. Harrington. I'm in 8498 Summit Hill Court in Ottawa.
Okay, thank you. So we did just take action on it. What we did is we deferred this to next month.
Right.
And then the applicant is this lady back here that you saw just up on at the microphone here. Maybe step out and talk to her, and she can talk to you between now and next month.
Oh, okay.
And
well, we can do that.
and then we'll hear it again next month.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next case on the agenda is item 5. It's SDP-26-10. This is a final plat for West Shepherd Road subdivision lots 1 through 33 located at 2163 Shepherd Road. Staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present?
Mr. Chairman, can staff let the record reflect, this is not City of Chattanooga District 4, it should be 6, and we need to check the address to make sure that address is correct.
Thank you. What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve. It has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 on our agenda is SDP-26-11. This is a final plat for Farmstead subdivision, lots 107 through 118, 153 through 158, 185 through 192, 196 through 221, and community lots 13 through 16 located at 1679 Farmstead Drive. Staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Item 7 on our agenda is SDP-26-12. This is a final plat for Ryle Branch subdivision, lots 1 through 85, located at 1615 Morse Hill Road. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Any questions about the conditions? What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve with conditions, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8 on our agenda is case SDP-26-13. This is a preliminary plat for Silverdale Townhomes, lots 1 through 27 located at 7368 Old Cleveland Pike. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Any questions about the conditions?
I do have a question for the applicant.
Yes, ma'am. Can you come on up? We do have a question for you. Councilwoman Burrs.
Hi, good afternoon. Afternoon. I'm just kind of tracking this property because I've had a lot of questions from the community about the property. In your original design, what's your final plan for how many units you're going to put in?
27, I believe.
And the original design was for less?
Yeah, like 24. So they made them a little bit smaller.
They made them smaller. They
Yeah.
reduced the size.
Yeah.
Okay, then
Yeah.
that'll help me answer the question to the community when they see
Perfect.
more going in. Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, to be clear, I think he said 27 lots. I think one of those lots is a community lot. So actually
Right,
maybe
yeah, so
26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
26.
And just smaller. What's the square footage? Are they all the same size?
They are.
They
Yes.
are. How
Yeah.
many bed? What's the,
I think they're 3, 2.
is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Move to approve with conditions.
Second.
We have a motion to approve with conditions, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9 on our agenda is SDP 26 This is a preliminary plat for Trailhaven subdivision, lots 1 through 14, and community lots 900 through 901, located at 4207 Mountain Creek Road. Staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission?
Approve.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case is SDP 26 This is a preliminary plat for 1 West Side subdivision, lots 300 through 305, located at 1201 Poplar Street and 0 West 12th Street. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Any questions about the conditions? Okay, can you come on up? State your name and address for the record.
I'm Brendan Kuhn with Pape Dawson at 35 Station Street. Most of the comments were minor and we have no problem with it, but one of the comments stated that the 2 roads proposed were to be private. I think that was due to a note error on the plat. Those were intended to be public roads, both of those. So we'd like to have that comment removed if possible.
You're fine with that?
That's
Mr.
fine.
Schultz?
Yeah, it just says if the road is to remain private, it's the responsibility of the HOA or the property owner to maintain. But it's fine if it's removed.
Okay,
If they're gonna be public, it doesn't really matter.
okay.
Great.
Move to approve with conditions minus the one that says the road is to remain private.
Second.
We have a motion to approve with conditions, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case on our agenda is item 11. It's SPV 26-3. It's a variance for 1 West Side subdivision located at 1201 Poplar Street. Staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12 on our agenda is SPV 26-2. This is a variance for Ridge End subdivision located at 3854 Bonnie Oaks Drive. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? And you want to speak in regards to the conditions?
Mr. Chairman, can the staff clarify? He may want to speak. I don't know. The application we received, I think, Trina can correct me if I'm wrong, was for a variance to having sidewalks on both sides of the street. I think he's wanting more than just that. I think he's wanting to do pavement width at 22 feet and no curb and gutter. So he's good. Never mind. Just ignore what I said.
We have already deleted it from our memory.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just saw the over there, so just ignore
Yes,
that. So
yeah.
we're good.
We didn't even hear you.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve with conditions, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Now we've got some old business under rezoning, closures, abandonments, mandatory referrals, and special permits. First item there is case 2026-0036. This is located at 3008 Mary Walker Place. And they have, or looks like they're going to be seeking to withdraw this. Is the applicant present? Right here.
He may not be here. He submitted an application withdrawal. We accepted that. I think he's under the impression he didn't need to be here.
Okay. Is there any opposition present? Can I get a motion to allow that? Yeah, so we have a motion to withdraw, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We've got a mandatory referrals, item 2 here under old business. It's case 2026-0037, and this is for an unopened 200 block of Preston Avenue. And staff is recommended to approve the request with conditions. Is there any opposition present?
Mr. Chairman, this applicant is not able to be here today. He's asking for a 30-day deferral.
Is there any opposition? And what was the reason for the request for deferral? Because he couldn't be here?
He's out of town, and I think the applicant may be opposed to some of the conditions that are placed on this right-of-way closure.
Okay, that makes good sense.
Second.
We have a motion to defer for 30 days. And it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. First item under new business is case 2026-0054, and this is located at 140 Browns Ferry Road. Staff is recommended to deny an applicant's request and approve other for a rezoning from RN 17.5 residential neighborhood zone to CC commercial corridor zone. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? You're the applicant? Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, we're recommending to deny the CC request and approve CN, which allows this applicant to do what he wishes to do, which is monuments and for a funeral home next door, that is allowed. Outdoor accessory use and sales is allowed as long as he has an office on this property or he combines it with a funeral home next door.
Okay. So you understand what it is that's being recommended by staff? Okay. And do you have any questions or concerns with it? Okay. What's the will of the commission?
To approve CC zone and approve, move to deny CC zone and approve the CN zone.
Second.
We have a motion. And it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Second item under new business is case 2026-0055, and this is located at 1508 East 13th Street. And staff is recommended to deny an applicant's request to rezone from R2A to C2. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? All right, Mr. Schultz.
Sure, this is case 2026-55. This is a request to rezone property from R2A Rural Residential District to C2 Local Business Commercial District. This is in the county for commercial use. It's 1.5 acres in size. There's no zoning history on this property, but to the left of this property, in 1994, that property was rezoned to C2. Staff and Plan Commission recommended to deny at that time. However, the County Commission approved that C2. That C2 is a vacant piece of property. Looking at the aerial map, just a closer view of, or zoomed out view of where this is at. This is in the Appleton community. To the north is vacant property and single unit residential. To the south is a school and single unit residential to the east and a church to the west.
This is the incorrect address on the screen.
Okay, here's a view of the site. This is the view north of the site, east of the site. This is west of the site. You can see it's pretty much vacant around here. There's a former school building. This is in Plan Hamilton, which is adopted by this body in 2025. It recommends suburban residential. The primary uses include single unit detached residence up to 5 dwellings and ADUs. It doesn't mention any commercial use either as a primary or secondary use. Here's a closer view of the place type. You can see it's suburban residential. This is the site plan submitted with a request. They're planning on using a building in the C2 portion that's already zoned C2 and have outdoor storage in the area being requested to be rezoned. Staff comments are this request is not compatible with adopted land use plan. It's not compatible with adjacent land uses or the development form of the area. Everything around this is residential. This site is surrounded by R2A residential zoning. There are no commercial zonings nearby except the one that's next door, which could be used for this development of this property for storage. So staff recommended to deny this request for C2 at this location.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Yes, sir.
$6430 Pawpaw Trail. So couple items on this. It's not shown
First is the address is incorrect on the agenda. The address, the correct address is 11254 Old East Brainerd Road. If you would pull up that picture right there. So on the top side, this property, we own the whole section. So the vacant property that was shown earlier is all one piece of property we bought together. There's a Chestnut Creek that runs alongside of where that triangle is up through the C2. So this kind of separates it, kind of landlocks it between the two pieces. Is the other reason that we wanted to convert it to C2. And was reading in some of the comments was the inability to get water back there. Since we own the whole piece, it shouldn't be an issue getting water to that section of property. So I'm not sure what next steps I need to take to appeal this.
Well, staff has simply made a recommendation to this body that we deny the request based on what you've heard. So ultimately, it would be on you to compel us to not deny it. I don't know if there are any questions for the applicant. Mr. Chenway?
My understanding is similar to a case we had, I guess a couple months ago now for, I think it was an office rezoning. Since this doesn't comply with Plan Hamilton, I think it would require either an amendment to Plan Hamilton or Plan Hamilton compels us to deny, but he could always take this on to county commission and they can make a different decision. That's my understanding.
Yes.
Chairman, I've had a couple of elderly constituents, their neighbors that said they did not want that. They weren't able to come in, but they just said they felt that it should not be commercial in their area, the residents of the area. I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that front piece is already commercial. So I'm not sure how this is going to change our plans as far as putting a building on the commercial side of it. It's just one of those situations that gives us a little more room, gives us ability to use the rest of the property on the back.
Okay. Yes.
Do you mind, are there plans as to what kind of business you're planning for?
Yeah, so we have a construction business and we want to have part of the building be that, and then we want to rent the other space out to like electricians, plumbers, that sort of type rental.
Any other questions for the applicant?
So Brian, I think I just got this clarified, but the site that's actually adjacent to, is it Old East Brainerd, that's across from Bauxite Road, that is currently C2, but the parcel behind it is what we're looking at, and okay.
Yeah, yes, here's the screen. I think the applicant owns this property, but the larger portion to the left of the red box is already zoned C2, and that was done in 1994.
Yeah, maybe one more question for the applicant. Have you had a chance to talk to the county commissioner for that area just to?
I have, yeah. We scheduled a meeting on the 8th of April at Wired Coffee, and nobody showed up except Mr. Eversole. And I had a conversation with him about it, and he approved it verbally.
Okay. Yeah, like I know this site pretty well. I actually ride my bike at the Bauxite Trails pretty frequently. I think you've already clear cut the C2 space, right? So it's pretty open, and this is a tough one because Plan Hamilton would suggest that this isn't a good fit, but just knowing the land out there, I don't think that what you're proposing would necessarily be an issue. I think you're going to be hard pressed to get the approval of this commission's today, but you might lean into Eversole and just get his thoughts on whether or not this would get through county commission, just because on paper it's probably not a fit. So
okay.
Any other questions? What's the will of the commission?
Second.
We have a motion to deny, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry?
I voted opposed.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to say something else other than that, and I was trying to hear where it came from. Thank you. Thank you.
Him and Hollander.
That's a tough one. I can see. Item 3 on the agenda is case 2026-0056, and this is located at 2836 Anderson Terrace. Staff is recommended to deny an applicant's request to rezone from RN16 to TRN3. Is there any opposition present?
Mr. Chairman, we did receive opposition as well through emails.
Yeah, there's a number of hands. And then is the applicant present? You're the applicant? Or is it, raise your hand if you're the applicant. We have a motion to deny. I'm assuming the applicant is not here, or they just don't want to be here maybe. Okay. We have a motion to deny.
Mr. Chairman, who made that motion? We didn't catch that.
Councilwoman Burrs. And it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 under new business is case 2026-0057. And this is located at 6808 Connor Lane. Staff is recommended to deny an applicant's request from CC to IH. Is the applicant present? Oh, you're the applicant. And is there any opposition present? Okay. No, there's no opposition. Mr. Schultz?
This is case 2026-57. This is a request to rezone from CC, commercial corridor zone to IH, heavy industrial zone for proposed towing company. It's 0.7 acres in size. This property was equivalency map from C2 to CC in 2025 with a new zoning code. 2003, right across the road of Connor, that property was rezoned from R4 to C2. And then just south of this site, with a crosshatch line, that property received a special permit in 2021 for a special permit for residential PUD. Here's a zoomed out view just to show you where this property is at. You got Lee Highway to the west, Shalford Road to the north, and Connor and the south just down here in sort of the middle, just off of Lee Highway. Closer view, there's a warehouse and wrecking business on this property. To the east is single unit residential. To the south under construction is single unit residential. And to the west is multi-unit and commercial along Lee Highway. Here's a view of the site. This is north of the site. This is south of the site, that PUD where the homes are being constructed. East of the site, more single-family dwellings. This is west of the site, Lee Highway, the commercial corridor. This property is in the Shalford Road Lee Highway plan, which was adopted in 2005. It recommends medium business mix, which is a C2 or CC type zone. It doesn't support industrial zone or uses at this location. Here's a closer view of that place type recommendation. You see it's the little cross-hatched area, which is medium business mix. This is the site plan submitted with the request. Basically, best we can tell, this site is currently non-conforming because the existing towing company has been previously zoned C2, which was a permitted use in that zone. The zoning ordinance did change in 2024 that removed towing companies, record and car dealerships from the CC zone and placed them in more heavy industrial zones. Again, most of those auto-oriented uses are in the IH zones. The applicants are requesting to rezone this to IH to bring the property into zoning compliance. The thing of the IH zone, it has a maximum building height of 80 feet, which will permit larger mass buildings than what's presently near this property, which is residential, and smaller one-story commercial buildings. So the request is not compatible with adopted land use plan. It's not compatible with adjacent residential land uses. It will introduce a higher intense zone and uses in this location. The CNT or CN zone would be more appropriate at this location. However, those don't allow record services or car dealerships. We reached out to LDO. Basically, it seems like this use has been in use for a long time, so it's still grandfathered in. If that's the case, it hasn't lost its grandfather protection and would be allowed to continue in such use unless it lost its grandfather protection. LDO did state they lost their license for a record company, but it's still been operating, is my understanding. So if it's been operating, it's considered a legal non-conforming use.
10 years it's been operating as a record lot. And then,
Can you state your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry,
Can you state your name and address for the record
it's 6808 Connor Lane.
and your name?
My name's Bill McCauley.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And you were saying,
Well, it's been in operation as a record lot for 10 years and we've had no complaints about it. We've let the vegetation grow all around it on 3 sides. And then I've been talking with Jared Smith, the man that's building the subdivision coming down the hill. And he's agreed that we're gonna split the cost of putting arborvitae trees or Leland cypress trees on the top of his berm there that attaches to his retention pond. And then you would you can't even see it from the back then. And it was a 50-foot road right away to the left as you're facing the building. To the left, there's a 50-foot road right away. And then the first house there belongs to me and my brother. And then we own 5, I think, of the 10 houses up the street there. So, and they're all in good shape, rental houses. And we've never had any complaint with it. And we're perfectly willing to put some more vegetation and it'd practically be covered up if we get that back part of it covered with that retention pond. And I talked to Mr. Ingram. He's talked to Gerald out there, and Gerald seems to be agreeable with I buy half of it, he buy half of it, and his men are going to plant the trees. And it's always been operated very well. I've never had any complaint about it.
okay, any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hi, is it Macaulay, Mr. Macaulay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hi. Thank you for explaining that. My concern about changing the zone because you're able to operate what you want to operate now
Yeah.
is that if any point in time you decide to sell that property, it adds a non-conforming use to that property. And with the new development on Carnell and then the Longview residents, they really fight to keep that community residential.
Yeah.
And if I understand, Brian, if I understand you correctly, he can continue to operate as is with the purpose that he's using it for,
That's our understanding because
grandfathered in as a non-conforming business?
that's correct.
Okay.
So
That-
the folks at Monsteller want to rent it because the lease is up with the current tenant that's been there over 10 years. And they need it to be H1 for them to operate it. It's the way I understand it. And I'm just trying to get in compliance with what it needs to be to rent it to who I need to rent it to. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
I understand your purpose. I think my concern is if Mostettlers
Yeah.
goes away at some point and finds a better location,
Yeah.
then you've got a zone that so many other things can be opened up to, which don't conform with
Yeah.
a residential
Yeah.
neighborhood.
But we, like I said, we're willing to do whatever we need to do to improve the looks of it and to block out any view anybody has of seeing anything there. And with no complaints so far, I don't see why it would hurt. It's you got 7 or 8 people, employees, record truck drivers, and clerks, people in there, and our taxes are tremendous.
Sure. Have you met with the neighborhood, with the Carnell and
I
Longview
I
neighborhood?
put the sign up, and I've been living there in and out of that community I'm 80 years old, so they know how to get a hold of me.
Thank you for investing in the community.
Yeah.
I think if you'd like to have, I would be in favor of deferring for 30 days if you'd like to meet with the community and
Yeah.
get their input on that and then
Yeah.
come back to us. Otherwise, I would be in favor of denying today.
Yeah, I'm always, whatever is, compliant with the rules and what we need to do for the neighborhood. I've got an investment in the neighborhood of
Sure.
80 years in the neighborhood. So I don't want to run
Absolutely.
the neighborhood down. I don't want to run anybody off, but at the same time, it's a lucrative place to have that business there.
Sure. I can get you my contact information and maybe we can get together after today's meeting to
okay.
talk about meeting with the
Okay.
neighborhood, if you're in agreement to me.
That'd be fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to
Thank you.
make a motion to defer for 30 days.
We have a motion to defer for 30 days, and it has been
Mhm.
seconded. Mr. Anderson.
Question for staff. You probably know what I'm going to ask, but was this properly remapped? If they had an existing use under C2 that was allowed, should we have made this CR or IL maybe?
So for the commercial uses for the C2, we did a straight zone. I don't think
Okay.
we parsed them based on use. So the new zoning does have there's a handful of uses that were allowed in the C2 zone by right that went to other uses. And a lot of those have been handled because they're they become non-conforming uses, and under state law can expand and continue that use. And so I think in the 30-day timeframe, we should also speak to the applicant about submitting for a zoning verification letter that the use that is proposed can continue to be in operation. And so we can get with Mr. McCauley about having him submit for a zoning verification letter to confirm that that use would be a legal non-conforming use that under state law can continue. And maybe by the next commission meeting, have that in place.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Maybe.
I guess kind of for my education purposes, question for staff, if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Under what circumstances can someone lose their grandfather status in a case like this?
If it becomes vacant for more than, I think it's 100 days in the zoning code, and that's usually, they check it, I think, by loss of power to the property. It's hard to determine. If they walked away and it's vacant for more than 100 days, it loses that grandfather protection.
If in a situation like that, if a landowner or a property owner was leasing it and a different tenant came in with the same operation, would they lose their status in a situation like that?
It depends how many days it's been vacant. If they lost power,
But it just comes.
it'd still be
down
the
to
same
power.
use. If it's the
Okay.
same use, you can continue regardless who that user is.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. We have a motion to defer for 30 days, and it has been properly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case on our agenda is item 5. It's a mandatory referral, case 2026-0058. And staff is recommended to deny an applicant's request for a right-of-way closure and abandonment located at the 2800 block of 8th Avenue. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? All right, Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, this is MR 2026-58. This is a request to abandon existing right-of-way. The purpose is to combine adjacent property to create a parking area. See on the zoning map, it's industrial zoned. Here's a map, aerial map showing industrial uses to the north and south, east and west. Everything around this is industrial. This is the right-of-way the applicant wishes to close and abandon. Here's a site plan submitted with a request. The area in the red in the purple here, the area in red is what the applicant is requesting to abandon. We did have some comments from Public Works, Transportation Division. The property has already approved temporary use permit. This permit does not expire unless the use changes or it's abandoned. The temporary use permit is more appropriate to allow the applicant to use the right-of-way than closing it permanently. This request does not meet the City of Chattanooga right-of-way abandonment policy. Temporary permit is the best way to go on this property. Also, closing the right-of-way appears that it would prevent access to an adjacent property with a red leader line coming here. There is another right-of-way running north to south, but there is no pavement there. This is the only pavement that looks like it does provide access to the rear adjacent property. So based on those comments we received from Public Works, Transportation, and staff's review, staff recommended to deny this request and keep the temporary use permit in play.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Michael Hutcherson with March Adams Engineering. I guess a couple questions. Currently, the alley we're proposing to abandon, there is not a pavement connection between it and the adjacent property owner. So right now, the adjacent property owner is Callahan Mechanical, and they access the back of their lot through their garage. Yep, right there. We did receive a letter from them this morning saying that they don't have any objections to closing this alley. I understand y'all don't have a copy of that letter, and I can give that to y'all. But I guess my question is if there's not already a paved connection to the alley we're proposing, and the green alley that we're recommending to remain open isn't paved either, I guess, does it really make a difference if they don't have paved access to either alley?
Well, I mean, I want to take a stab at answering your question. I think it probably doesn't make a difference to the users currently, but it probably does make it, and it probably doesn't. It does make a difference to the users currently. It probably does not make a difference to transportation. Would you agree with that, Mr. Schultz?
I think so. I don't
mean,
want to speak.
Transportation doesn't necessarily care whether or not it's
No,
being used or whether or not it's paved.
Correct. And then you got to think about in the future, somebody different user could come in and need that access via something different. So I don't want to speak for transportation division.
Right.
Can we request a deferral then for y'all to review the letter from the adjacent neighbor? And all I'm asking, because if the current property owner, Adman Electric, and the adjacent property owner, Adman Electric, don't have issue, I guess is a question of priority to them versus a hypothetical future development.
And I will say this, unlike a zoning case, this does not automatically go next month to city council. So there is time between this meeting and city council action I would defer that letter to be reviewed by transportation division and not RPA. I defer to them. So there is time for them to review the letter, ultimately make a decision to city council whether to approve or deny.
Would it be possible to get all the property owners in that area to agree that these should be abandoned? I mean, is it?
Yeah, so Ricky Etherton with Admin
Yeah,
Electric.
can you come up?
I'll let him come up and speak to that.
All four corners there at the intersection, so the only adjacent property is. We have the right of.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yes.
I would agree that, currently the people are in agreement. I'm concerned about the future use. In the future, it may be needed by a different owner in the future. It's just a concern I had.
Yes.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Lyle.
Chairman. I don't know. I mean, I feel like, don't really feel like it's gonna bother anything, to dispose of this. I think there's some times where it's real clear that, oh, by closing this, it's gonna block somebody from being able to access an alley. I think we saw one over in the North Shore, maybe last month or a couple months ago where that seemed to be the case. But here, I mean, I'm assuming there's a temporary use permit on the skinny one because there's a metal building built across it. But it just kind of feels like it's not really, feels like it's cleaning something up more so than it's creating a problem. And I'm all for cleaning stuff up. I mean, my personal opinion is I'm in favor of it. But that's just one little old me, and then it's got to go to the city council.
Yes, Mr. Verone. Mr. Maybe, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Lyle here. And I don't know that we need to wait on a letter. I trust that you guys have that and you can provide that to city council. So I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve and it has been seconded. Mr. Anderson.
Question for staff. This curved kind of diagonal right of way, is that ours or the railroads?
I believe this right here, talking about that right there, I think that's the right of way. I mean, railroad. If that's the belt line, it could be given to the city, but I don't know that for sure. That clearly looks like old railroad right of way.
It does look like a railroad right of way, which would mean if we abandon this one, we have none going across this block. So we have to know that's, I don't want anyone to think that that is a city right of way if it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding, if that's the old belt line that was deeded to the city, but if that's just owned by the railroad, they still own that right of way.
Yeah.
We can check before it gets city council.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a motion to approve the right-of-way closure and amendment, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Just the two, right? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6 has been withdrawn. Item 7, case 2026-0060, located at 7777 East Brainerd Road. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions and applicant's request to rezone from CMU 1 with conditions to CC Commercial Corridor Zone. Is there any opposition present? You're here in opposition? Okay, and is the applicant present? All right. We'll hear from Mr. Schultz first, then the applicant, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak. Mr. Schultz.
This is case 2026-60. This is a request to rezone from CMU 1, which is commercial mixed use zone, to CC, which is commercial corridor zone, for parking lot for commercial development and to remove a split zone property. This property is 2.75 acres in size. This site was rezoned from R1 to C2 and UGC with conditions in 2022. And then later in 2025, it was equivalency mapped to CMU 1 with conditions. You're looking to the south is CC, to the west is RN16, and to the southeast is OS, which is open space, which is Jack Benson Heritage Park, and then to the south is commercial. The three conditions that were placed on this property back in 2022 still hold. Building height limited to 3 stories. For the UGC zone property, you shall provide pedestrian connectivity to Jack Benson Park across Jenkins Road. And then number 3, prohibited certain uses such as retail sales and service establishments, bakeries, delicatessens, billiards, rooms, and theaters. Had a whole list of things that were prohibited in that zone. Here's a CMU 1 zone, has a single family home on it. To the north is single unit residential. To the west is a church. To the south is vacant. And further south along East Brainerd is the commercial corridor, Food City sitting there, as well as some out parcels. To the east is single unit. I believe a daycare is there, or office. And then you have a recreation and park. This property is slightly into floodplain. Here's a view of the site. North of the site, some single family dwellings. This is south of the site. This is east of the site, Jack Benson Heritage Park. This is East Brainerd Road site on the right-hand side. This property is in the East Area 11 East Brainerd plan, which is adopted in 2022. It recommends suburban residential, but the primary use is being single-family detached residential. Here's a closer view of that place type recommendation, which is suburban residential. However, this property was rezoned right prior to this plan being adopted. Here's the site plan submitted with a request. The area highlighted in red is the area being requested to be rezoned. The front portion is already zoned CC. This request with conditions is compatible with adjacent land uses and development form. It is an extension of the existing zone. Just as a reminder, the CMU 1 zone is a very heavy, intense commercial zone. So rezoning that from CMU 1 to C2 or CC is a less intense zone. Is more compatible with adjacent uses. So staff recommends to approve with 3 conditions. Those 3 conditions are the same conditions that were on the UGC from 2022. So this comes to this body with a recommendation to approve with 3 conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Any questions for staff? All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
My name's Clint Wolford, 412 Georgia Avenue. I think really Mr. Schultz kind of said everything that needs to be said here. We're not really trying to change anything except kind of clean things up a little bit. Some of the uses changed that we were going to do previously, and we're trying to change a little bit of what we want to do. And I feel like cleaning it up makes it easier to do that and not so much cumbersome.
Thank you. Sir, come on up.
My name is Dan Cahill. I reside at 1433 Jenkins Road, the property adjoining said development. We have no objection to the development of the property per se. The original plot plan that they presented at the last rezoning had a 20-foot barrier buffer around the property. The new one with the grocery store on it has been cut down to 10 foot. And this is going to allow a lot of the traffic noise, and visual effect on our property. The field behind us is used for soccer, and we have balls going everywhere. My suggestion would be, and it's in the scope of what they're proposing, is the 6-foot solid fence on the on our side of the property and the church field, which goes behind it. That's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can you come back up?
You want me to respond to that?
Yes, please.
I don't have, I'm not sure exactly why why the buffer went from 20 to 10, to be quite honest with you. We have no objection to it being 20 feet, back to what it was originally.
Mr. Chairman, I was just trying to check real quick. I believe the landscape code will require that 20-foot landscape buffer anyway.
That's why I was kind of a little bit shocked too, to be honest with you. So someone made an error, I guess, on our side when we did the drawing. So we're fine with the 20 feet staying in place.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
We have a motion to approve with conditions. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 8 on our agenda is case 2026-0061. This is located at 5502 Pearl Street. Staff is recommended to approve an applicant's to request to rezone from R5 Single Wide Manufactured Home District to R3 Multifamily Residential District. Is there any opposition present? I'm assuming you're the applicant? Yeah, you've got a staff recommendation to approve. You've got no opposition here. Do you have anything to say? You don't have to. Don't, I mean.
Just a question. Travis Farron, 106. I agree and appreciate the rezoning. Looks like the shortfall for the triplex is over 1,000 square feet. So I wanted to see if I could get the variance. I am under the plan national distance use of 11.5.
If you were going to request a variance, it'd be.
It'd be the Board of Appeals. And
Yeah.
let me clarify real quick. We're recommending to deny the R3, but approve R3MD, which allows the triplex. He is still short on the lot size. That'd be through Hamilton County Board of Zoning Appeals,
Not here.
not this body.
Yeah, so it'd be a separate application
Okay.
in a different body.
So I just, and for clarification, but a duplex is okay on that property.
As long as you meet the lot size, I'm not,
A duplex would.
yes.
10,500.
R3MD allows the single family duplex or triplex. And as long as you meet the lot size, you're good. If you don't, you have to go through Board of Appeals, try to get a variance.
Thank you.
What's the will of the commission?
Second.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes, sir. Did you want to say something else?
The mulberry I wanted to withdraw.
Oh, okay. You want to withdraw on case 2026-0062?
Correct.
Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission?
Move to withdraw.
We have a motion to withdraw, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is item 10, case 2026-0063. And this is located at 1211 Boynton Drive and 1301 Grove Street. And staff is recommended to approve the applicant's request to rezone from RN3 to WN West Side Neighborhood Zone. Is there any opposition present? You're the applicant. You want to argue with the staff recommendation on this? Thank you. What's the will of the commission?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all. Did you get that? Item 11 on our agenda is case 2026-0064, and this is located at 6203 Champion Road. And it's a special permit for a single wide manufactured home, and staff has recommended approval. Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12 is a mandatory referral, case 2026-0065, and this is located at the 6400 block of Middle Valley Road. Staff has recommended to approve a mandatory referral for a sewer easement abandonment. Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 13 on our agenda is mandatory referral case 2026-0066. And this is located in the unopened block of 3600 block of, what is that? What is that word? Somebody else say it. Divine?
Divine, I believe.
Yeah, it's divine. It's just, for whatever reason, it's not registering.
The Holy Spirit.
It is very divine. Staff is recommended to deny. And is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Yes, sir. Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, this is MR 2026-66. This is a request to abandon unopened rights of way in the city of Chattanooga. Proposed use is to combine property for future development. You can see on the zoning map here, everything abutting this property is industrial zone. The area highlighted in red is the area of the closure and abandonment. Here's an aerial view showing the vacant land, 2-unit residential to the north, and further north is commercial, but everything abutting this area is vacant land. It's a view that an open right of way off 36th Street. Another view of that same site. You can see it's sort of being cleared already. Here's the original site plan submitted with the request. You can see the unopened right of ways being abandoned. There's really no future use shown on this site plan. We did receive some comments from Stormwater Division and Transportation Division. The subject property is largely within 100-year floodplain. Existing ditches convey this runoff between storm systems. A wetland assessment might be beneficial to the applicant. Then Transportation Division, the city would like to retain the right-of-ways for potential connectivity provided to the subject property. Staff reviewed it. The request does not meet the city of Chattanooga right-of-way closure and abandonment policy. There are some stormwater concerns. The right-of-way does provide future north-south connectivity. The applicant has not demonstrated a significant private interest to abandon these rights-of-way. Full industrial use and with no future development plan makes it hard to ensure that appropriate operational can be addressed to these rights-of-way. So staff recommended to deny. This morning I did receive from the applicant a revised site plan showing those same rights-of-way, but with buildings shown what it would look like to be redeveloped. So staff recommended to deny this request before you.
Yes, sir.
Brendan Kuhn with Pape Dawson, 35 Station Street. Okay, so a couple comments to address. The first one is about the floodplain and the stormwater conveyance and the right of way here. So we are aware of that. My client has performed a surface waters assessment that show most of this site is in a wetland, and the reason for that is the street that was built to the south, all along the south border there, essentially dammed up the site. And so the site has been low-lying. It's been holding water for decades. There was a culvert that crosses under that street that was full of sediment. And so that was actually recently cleared. My client is developing the parcel on the top left. So he owns all of these except for the residential houses in that strip there, yeah. And he's developing the one in the top left. That's where he's going to move his office for Maven. It's a concrete company. And then the parcel just under that, we've already permitted to fill and raise to get that out of the floodplain, to have that not be a floodplain or a wetland anymore. And so if we were to continue developing further east, we would continue that work, doing detention, water quality, stormwater conveyances, designing that per the city codes. And I did want to clarify that the GIS shows stormwater conveyances through this right of way, but that's really just because there's water coming in one end and exiting the other end. There's no pipes, no formal ditches. It just all sits wet all the time. And so we would basically be engineering that and having that function much more efficiently. These are, I can send the surface waters assessment to RPA, but these have been qualified as low quality wetlands. There's no endangered species or any sort of environmental concerns here. There's been people dumping trash here for decades, so this would mainly be a cleanup project. And as you know, if this were residential or commercial, this might be a different story. But for industrial use like this, there's huge economies to scale when you're looking at warehouses and large staging areas and stuff like that. So it makes a lot more sense to have one 6.5 acre parcel rather than 4 little industrial parcels all next to each other. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Mr. Chairman, I failed to mention, you have in front of you a handout, I think the applicant provided from Maven Holdings describing their response.
Any questions for the applicant?
A quick question for staff, if I can. Mr. Schultz, I believe in your presentation, I heard where the city was particularly interested in keeping that access north to south, but the smaller alleys that are in there, do you think that they have the same concerns with those? If those
We did discuss that during staff review of zoning, but we all, as a staff, decided to keep that open as well. But the main concern was this larger north-south, which is a much larger right of way.
Okay, I guess I'd carry that on to the applicant as well, if I may. Is that something y'all looked at?
It is. You can't really see it on this view, but there were additional alleyways that went further south that have already been abandoned. This whole parcel, there was an old plat at least 100 years ago that this was all small residential lots, which is, obviously what these alleys were meant to be used for, but that never happened except for those 6 lots up there to the north. This got zoned industrial, so it's not intended to be residential anymore. So I don't think those alleyways are really appropriate any longer.
I would tend to agree with the applicant, and I just think, we have such a shortage of industrial zoned land, and if transportation felt like we needed reasonable block sizes at Enterprise South, that would be very, very problematic. It would be very, very problematic if we needed reasonable block lengths on Amnicola Highway where we have all of our industrial land. I mean, this was platted by some developer at some period of time with these thoughts about there being road there, and it's never developed in that manner. And I just can't see where there's any lost. I mean, look at that zoning map again. It's all industrial, and it just makes no sense. There are cases all over the city of Chattanooga where there are buildings that are built across these right of ways and across these property lines where, that sort of thing was happening. Industry was building across these for years before, it started getting regulated. So I think it makes perfect sense in our industrial areas to make these abandonments and put this property back into use. Yes.
If I could add to that, one of the things that makes this property so difficult is because it's so low lying and currently a low quality wetland, you can't really fix that in small areas. You kind of have to do that as a large chunk because you have to fill, at least 5 feet high. So it doesn't make sense to just put a bunch of different little mounds on these little parcels. It makes a lot more sense to raise the whole site and design the stormwater to travel through it altogether. So I just don't think these parcels would be useful as industrial use without combining them. So.
What's the will of the commission? I'll make a motion, we approve. We have a motion to approve and it has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 14 has been withdrawn. Item 15 is case 2026-0069. This is located at 7514 and 7518 Stanford Gap Road. And it's an application to lift and amend conditions. Staff is recommended to approve with conditions. Is there any opposition present? Is the applicant present? Any questions about the conditions? What's the will of the commission?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve with conditions and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is case 2026-0073. And this is located at 1601 and 1603 East 49th Street. And staff is recommended to deny an applicant's request to rezone from CC Commercial Corridor Zone and RN 15 to IH Industrial Heavy Zone. Is there any opposition present? You're the applicant? Okay, Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, this is case 2026-73. This is a request to rezone a property, a split zoning designation of RN 15 and CC to IL, which is an light industrial zone. Proposed use is outdoor storage for vehicles. It's roughly 0.28 acres in size. There is some zoning history on this property. The CC zone property was rezoned in 1981 from R1 to C2. Then in 2025, this site was equivalency mapped to CC and RN 15 for the R1 zone property next door. There is no IL property near this property. However, just to the south, about 2 blocks to the south, just off the map, there is some IL zone at that location. This is 1601 and 1603 East 49th Street. You see everything abutting this property is single unit residential. And on the property is here highlighted in the red square, which is outdoor storage of vehicles. Here's a view of the site from East 49th Street. A view of the site from Calhoun Avenue. This is north of the site. Go back. South of the site, single family dwellings. East of the site is vacant piece of property. West of the site is vacant piece of property. This fence line is the site location. Just some history. This is the view of the site in 2007. You can see some type of storage or commercial use happening on this property. 2011, it appears to be vacant with a structure on the property. And in 2019, it is fenced and outdoor storage of vehicles is occurring on the property. And this vacant piece of property is vacant. It's part of the zoning request today. In 2023, you can see the operation has now expanded, the outdoor storage of vehicles. This is in the Rossville Boulevard plan, which was adopted in 2004. The plan recommends low-density residential for this site. Here's a closer view of that plan, recommends low-density residential. This use is illegal, non-conforming use in the CC and RN 15 zone. It appears since at least 2016, there have been outdoor storage of vehicles on this property based on Google Earth images. The prior commercial designation, which was C2, did not allow outdoor storage of junk vehicles or salvage cars. Those were only allowed in the M4 outdoor industrial zone. So this use has illegally been operating for quite some time. One thing to keep in mind, these are small lots. It would be difficult if this property is rezoned to comply with a 30-foot wide landscape buffer, as these lots appear to be only 45 to 50 feet wide. So compliance with landscape buffer would be difficult if it's rezoned. The IH zone, as I mentioned earlier, does allow buildings of 80 feet tall, which is more than 50 feet taller than some of the adjacent residential zone property. It also allows more intense zones in an industrial, in a residential area. This request is not compatible with adopted land use plan. We'll set the precedent for future requests in a residential area with industrial uses or industrial zones. So staff recommends to deny this request.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Yes, sir.
Yes, hello, it's Felix Vasquez, about 1601, 1603 East 49th Street. So what I'm more confused about is, so I can't even put cars on that property? Because the only thing I want to do is just add electrical to it so I can have cameras. Because I used to have regular cars, like cars to sell. We have a dealership, but people keep stealing them or they will steal parts out of it. We just move those cars. And then now I just want to have electrical to put cameras. I don't really need the industrial port.
Well, I think the issue is that your property is not zoned for the storage of automobiles, period. So you cannot store cars on that
I
property.
can't even store vehicles on that property.
You cannot store vehicles on the property.
No, not the way it's zoned. That's why you need the industrial zone to be able to store the cars.
So what could I do here then? Do I have to take the cars out or what would I have to do?
Yes, you have to take the cars out. It's a neighborhood.
And then how long would I have for that?
Well, I'd love to see the city enforcing it. Is that
That's
a
up to codes
thing?
enforcement. Yeah, codes enforcement would have to, I guess, take him,
Yeah,
send you
They're gonna
violations. You're
enforce it.
violating the zoning code as it is today.
good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
I
you-
mean, I've never been told that ever since we had the property, that I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. I mean, I've had multiple police officers there on several occasions, and not one of them has told me anything either.
Yeah, the police don't enforce it. It's code enforcement that does it.
Mhm.
So,
And just be clear, these are storage of salvaged vehicles, correct?
Now there are, yes. I used to have I used to have cars that I was gonna sell there, and then people would just steal them, or they'll steal parts out of it to break the fence down or whatever. So then we just put cars that we use for different things at this point.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's not allowed in that zone. It's zone CC. Never was allowed to start with. It had to be an industrial zone to do that.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman.
yes, Mr. Maybe.
Mr. Schultz, was it allowed in C2 before?
No, it was not.
rezoned? So this has always been out of
Correct.
compliance.
Now, that's the question. If he was at some point selling vehicles, that may be different, but if it did switch to totally storage of unusable cars, that's when the use changed. It should have been an industrial zone. But if he was selling cars, that would have been allowed. But some point, it changed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I mean, I hate it for the applicant here, but I think this is definitely not an appropriate use for the residential zone. So I'd make a motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next case on the agenda is item 19. It's a mandatory referral, case 2026-0074. And this is a case where staff is recommended to defer for 30 days on an unopened 2,500 block of Roanoke Avenue for a right-of-way closure and abandonment. Is the applicant present?
Mr. Chairman, we advised the applicant she didn't need to be here today since we have a deferral. And actually, I believe Emily's been working with her and Sarah's been working with her. She may be withdrawing this case. She works quite a bit and haven't been able to get an official withdrawal letter from her. There's a lot of issues going on with this right-of-way closure she was not aware of. So we're trying to help her through that. So she may be coming back next month to actually withdraw this request.
Okay. Can I get a motion to defer for 30 days?
So moved to 30 days.
We have a motion and it has been seconded to defer for 30 days. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Schultz, I guess we've got this mandatory referral, case 2026-0072, located at 1801 South Holtzclaw. Staff is recommended to approve. Is there any opposition present? What's the will of the commission? We have a motion to approve and it has been properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we've got resolutions and abandonments. Mr. Schultz.
Yes, sir. The first case is both first 1 and 2 are with dealing with Hamilton County zoning regulations. The first resolution is to change the zoning map. In the zoning code, it references the Regional Planning Agency, RPA, or Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Agency is responsible for maintaining the Hamilton County zoning map. That needs to change, so we're recommending changing that to the Hamilton County Planning Department with an effective date of July 1st, 2026.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, let me, you want to make a motion? I can make the motion. I can do that, you know? Yeah, okay, so we're going to make a motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Schultz.
The second amendment is again with the Hamilton County zoning regulations. This is to change in the zoning regulations any reference to RPA, Regional Planning Agency, or Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Agency to the Hamilton County Planning Department. with an effective date of July 1st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.
The last amendment here for me is, this is amending the Chattanooga zoning code. In the zoning code, in the back of the book, under Board of Appeals, it talks about, we have a use in the zoning code, residential care facility. But in the back under Board of Appeals, it describes review criteria for residential homes for persons with disability and or aged persons, for nonprofit and commercial, assisted living facilities and medically assisted living facilities and nursing homes and hospitals. That's sort of buried in the back in the Board of Appeals. It's not really intuitive when you pull up the land use chart. So staff is recommending to amend the land use table to add to residential care facility those same following uses and reference that section in the back of Board of Appeals. So it's very intuitive that those uses are allowed and are considered a residential care facility. And the review criteria is in a different section.
We have a motion to approve and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then item 4 here, Mr. Schultz.
I believe Kenneth Martin and LDO, Cassie and Jinx are here to talk about the floodplain stuff. I have a presentation I'll pull up. Kenneth, you want to sit here, Kenneth, or you just want me to scroll, however you want to do it? You want me to scroll through it or?
Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ken Martin, City of Chattanooga Floodplain Coordinator. Bringing forth to you today the floodplain regulation updates that we have proposed. I'm going to talk a little bit about what these regulations are, how they're impactful, why they matter, how do we get here, and we're going to discuss what those regulations are, the definitions behind them, and the reasoning. This is also an initiative of Public Works Stormwater that's headed up by the LDO and Stormwater Division. So, like I said, the benefit for the city is astronomical. The constituents being able to benefit from some of the programs that these proposed regulations would bestow. You go ahead and click to the next slide. So, talk a little bit about what the floodplain is. That's going to be your floodway and your flood fringe. That's the low-lying area of land that inundates water. It's from any source. So the maps that incorporate these areas are FEMA-generated maps. They're created by FEMA. They also use engineering data and some local knowledge and some flood analysis to create these maps in the low-lying areas and identify the at-risk areas for flood purposes. You go ahead. Next one. So how do we get here? Starts by putting the right people in the right position. So myself, Ken Martin, being the floodplain coordinator, and now partnering with Jinx Parker, who is my immediate supervisor, we saw some areas that needed improvement within our floodplain ordinance and some of our procedures and processes that were highlighting how we manage our floodplain, and we decided that it was best to implement changes, given the fact that we had new maps becoming effective November 28th of 2025. So with those maps becoming effective, FEMA required the city to update our ordinance to be reflective of those firm panels. So we brought those to Planning Commission and ultimately City Council back in October and November, and both of those were approved. But at that time, we only were bringing forth to you guys the regulations that were needed to stay in compliance with the NFIP and maintain our flood insurance for the residents. So after those amendments were approved, we then started the process of getting adopted into the CRS program, which is something I mentioned a little bit later in the presentation. But we started that process and ultimately brought us to where we are today, which bringing forth these proposed amendments that can help elevate the benefits for the constituents in the city within that program. So the number one goal is to make sure we're protecting our citizens, make sure that we're allowing for our floodplain to function as naturally it's designed to, and ensure that the constituents are just protected, that they have those protections for flood insurance, to be able to have affordability while living in their homes, and also maintain that the development to keep the city growing. You go ahead, go to the next slide. So why this is important, entering into the CRS program is going to be highly beneficial for our community. Individuals who weren't incorporated in the floodplain initially were incorporated when the new maps came out. So you had a lot of structures and individuals incur flood insurance, and some of the regulations that were applicable that they once weren't incurring. So being adopted into the CRS program is going to be beneficial as it pertains to identifying potential discounts on those flood insurance. The CRS program is a initiative-driven voluntary program that allows for discounts for flood insurance based on the floodplain regulations that the city has in place. So, and I'll get into what our regulations are a little bit later in the presentation, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that though this program, it rates from a class 10 all the way down to a class 1, 10 being the lowest and 1 being the highest grade for that rating, and potential discounts from 5 to 45%. There are 20 communities, like the slide says, there are 20 communities that are participants. If we were to be enacted into this program, we have the potential to be the #1 leader in the state for within that program, and provide the most discounts for our community than any community in the state of Tennessee. I feel like that's a huge win for the city and for the community. And overall, we're looking at big picture. We want to be proactive instead of reactive. A lot of the other communities that I researched during my reviews, my peer reviews, I saw that they made a lot of their changes after an event that prompted these regulations and them to start looking out to protect their city and their citizens. We feel it's best that we go ahead and make those changes and implement some of those standards on the front end to be proactive as opposed to reactive. I think that's reflective of our city, and I think that's reflective of the administration that's in place now. You go ahead to the next slide. This provides a checklist of where we are now to be enacted into that program. Everything you see in green, we've already done. We acquired some software, the #1 software in the entire nation. The city's already acquired that software to help manage our floodplain process and make that record keeping a lot more concise, comprehensible, and just overall build our floodplain management processes out to be more robust. The things you see highlighted in yellow are the things that we have left and are currently in process of doing to ensure that once we get enacted into that program, we're able to be at the lowest possible rating to provide the highest benefit for flood insurance discounts for our constituents. Go ahead to the next slide. So get into what those proposals are. Base flood elevation. The base flood elevation is essentially the surface level of flooding that one can expect to incur in the event of a 100-year storm. So our design flood elevation is that minimum height that the city, our higher standards are required for development to be at based on that base flood elevation. So right now we have all varying higher standards for that regulation. One being the 1 foot above base flood elevation for residential construction that is built on slab on grade. And for non-residential, that same standard of 1 foot above base flood elevation is required. For residential that's built on an elevated foundation, we have a 2 foot above base flood elevation, or freeboard, which is the same as saying 2 foot above for protection. We have that same standard for residential construction that's built on an elevated foundation. So go ahead and click to the next slide. So what we're proposing as a city is that all construction be at that 2 foot above base flood elevation standard, whether it's commercial, residential, whether it's on an elevated foundation or not. We want to maintain that consistency and be comprehensible for the city and provide the best protections for the community as possible, with also maintaining the same regulation that we currently have for one of our types of development. You go ahead to the next slide. So we did a little bit of research behind the cost effectiveness for implementing this higher standard regulation. So if you look at it, you'll see that there is a little bit of increase from 1 foot to 2 foot based on 2,000 square feet stem wall and the different types of construction for that foundation. That benefit essentially being for the standard that we're proposing of 2 feet, you're looking at about $4,500 to essentially $5,000 for a 2,000 square foot standard home. Whereas that same with that same home built throughout the life of a 30-year mortgage, they're going to save about $37,000 in insurance prior to even being enacted into the CRS program, and seeing where we are rated to get those additional discounts, having the potential to be a greater savings for the constituents. And this study was done by the Association of Floodplain Managers back in February of 2017. You go ahead to the next slide. So we also implemented a chart to kind of give you more of a better idea of where you are regulation wise when it pertains to that finished floor higher standard regulation. So as you can see, the biggest benefit for entry into the CRS program and with relation to discounts is going to be where you have that 1 to 2 foot standard change. So from that, you see a significant discount from $2,000 annually to about $669 on average annually saved for flood insurance premiums and entry into that program and receiving those discounts. You go to the next slide. We're also proposing a regulation for compensatory storage. With that regulation, when you think about it from a standpoint of what compensatory storage is, think about it from the standpoint of, imagine you have a particular area that inundates water and you fill that area with dirt or fill. The water has to go somewhere. Water is not compressible. So with that, you look at, once that area is filled, where's that water have the potential to go? It could go to your neighboring properties. It could minimize that area and speed the water up. So now you're looking at potential impacts of erosion up downstream. And then you have the potential for offsite, creating more impacts offsite that aren't even essentially visible, but will reflect in our flood maps once you have those map changes and reflect the accuracy within our floodplain. You go ahead to the next slide. So what we're proposing for compensatory storage language is 2 methodologies to be considered for compliance. We give applicants the option to either choose a no-rise certification. That essentially is an engineered analysis showing the hydraulic balance of the pre and post construction, what that would look like, and the modeling that's associated with that. Or they have the option to exhibit compensatory storage with a 1-to-1 ratio of cut to fill. And with some areas of sensitive, some areas deemed by staff as sensitive areas, possibly having a 2-to-1 ratio. But like I said, that regulation gives the city the ability to maintain and sustain our floodplain for just for the constituents, for the life of our floodplains. We don't have any regulations in place right now that allows us to ensure that we're going to have sustainability long term. Excuse me. Go ahead to the next slide. We did a little bit of peer reviews, and this slide here shows where the city of Chattanooga is measurable in relation to some of our peers. As you can see, there are varying degrees of freeboard or the higher standard of above base flood elevation. With us being one of the only cities that has two different types of regulations as it pertains to development. Most all cities that I did the peer review for has some sort of compensatory storage requirement, allowing for that balance of and maintenance of the floodplain. And also you can see that last section has the restrictions that are applicable to those same cities. So us being one of the cities that has very few restrictions for flood within the flood fringe for as it pertains to development. You can go ahead to the next slide. I'm sorry. And if you have any questions, I'm here to take those questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got several. So the no rise option.
Yes, sir.
That y'all went through, where you can perform a study to prove that even though you're not doing compensatory fill
Absolutely.
or cut, is that approved under the CRS program? As like, will that get us the same benefit under that program? Or does it need to be just a compensatory fill requirement to meet that requirement of the CRS?
It will meet the requirement of the CRS program because it is a higher standard as opposed to no regulation at all. So it's going to show that there is that we're maintaining the no impact for that development. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And then one thing I'm concerned about is that we have a huge portion of the Rossville Boulevard area and then another portion of kind of the Orchard Knob area that are currently in the floodplain.
Yes, sir.
It's really significant. And when you have such a large area that's in the floodplain like that, especially since a lot of it is not near, I mean, some of these are half a mile away from the nearest creek or stream. There's not really a good place to do compensatory fill in that case. If you've got a small residential lot in the Rossville Boulevard area, you can't really cut the same amount as you're filling. You can't do that 1-to-1 because you'd lose literally half your land. And so I'm curious the long-term impact that might have on development in these two areas. And I guess one question I've got is how easy is it to update these FEMA maps if at some point in the future we're able to mitigate these flooding concerns in these neighborhoods by downstream improvements?
That's a good question. So if I may answer that for you, a lot of the area within our floodplain that has been incorporated into the new maps are only reflective of what the information and the data that FEMA had available to them, which may only be the elevations. the city is considering and looking into possibly having and creating our own maps that will be reflective of all the data in totality. That includes the infrastructure that's currently in place to be able to convey that water. So when you have all of the data available to you, that may change the areas that are showing in the floodplain to be more reflective of how that water is being conveyed to not be incorporated within that floodplain.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That does. Yeah. No, that's really exciting too. I'm just concerned that if we recommend this for approval now, there's going to be some kind of lead time between what you're talking about and the adoption of this ordinance, which would essentially freeze development in Rossville Boulevard and Orchard Knob until that's taken care of. I mean, I could be wrong. There might be some really creative developers out there who are willing to figure something out, but that's a pretty significant threshold to jump over. So I'm a little concerned about that. And then last, I see the no rise is in this. Sorry, I lost my PDF. The no rise option is in this compensatory storage guidelines document, but it's not reflected in the ordinance language itself. I'm curious, at least not that I could see. I'm curious why that is, and if there's a reason that it's not listed in the ordinance.
Yes. The reason that it's not listed into the ordinance is because we decided at a staff level that that language would be very technical, and we're going to reference in the ordinance should reference a separate document that's going to detail the city's requirements for showing or exhibiting that compensatory storage requirement. So they will essentially, just like it is in stormwater, they reference that document that exposes or details these are exactly the steps that you can follow, or these are the things that you can exhibit to show us what we need for compensatory storage. We're just not including that language in the ordinance because it's very technical and detailed, and it would essentially, in our opinion, create a lot of confusion and incomprehensibility for the regulation itself. But it's still going to be referenced and still codified, just not written into the code, but referencing a separate document that is obtainable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I've got right now.
I'm sorry. And can you go back to the question you had initially before that? I would like to address that one as well. I just lost my train of thought on it.
Yeah, just wondering the difference between adopting this in the near future and being able to adjust the floodplain maps in areas like Rossville Boulevard. There's going to be that gap there where it's going to be extremely difficult to develop anything in that area until that gap is addressed.
So that being the reason why we're allowing for multiple options for being able to exhibit that. So you don't just have to adhere to the compensatory storage regulation to show that we're going to cut the same amount of fill that we're imposing. You have the option to complete a no-rise analysis where you don't have to cut any fill. I mean, you don't have to cut any of that unearthing materials to show your compliance with the regulation, and still be able to provide the higher standard that we need to allow the city entirely to benefit from these higher standards from a basis of affordability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Can I ask a question about the no rise? So no rise, it would be some sort of engineer determining that filling this floodplain will not raise the flood elevation at all. Is that correct? Is that what a no rise certificate would be?
Yes and no. So what a no-rise certificate would certify is that there will be no impact based on that development. So whether that's a rise or a fall or decrease, either way, as it pertains to this development, post the conditions. So essentially what that means is when they submit those analysis and that modeling, it's going to show that this development didn't change any of the measurements up or downstream within a certain reach.
And I just don't know anything about these no-rise certificates, but I'm and how they come up with them, and I wonder if Nathan does. But would it ever be the case that a development would have an impact, but the impact is 0.0001 inches, and that's still a measurable impact? So the only reason I'm bringing this up is because, you know, we deal with a lot of environmental stuff where, you know, they're counting parts per billion. And then you talk to the actual people who are on the ground doing enforcement around those things, and they agree that parts per billion is like an uncomprehendable thing. And, you know, I guess I just want to make sure that as we do this, that, you know, no rise can't mean zero impact, because nothing that the development community is doing is having zero impact on the environment. Nothing. Like, the only way you can have zero impact on the environment is to die. Like, outside of that, you're having an impact. I mean, I don't want to be overly negative, but like, us all living is creating some sort of impact on the environment. And so then to say, you know, this development has to be built in such a way that it has zero impact on the flood elevations may not be a reasonable standard. I just don't know how those standards are even determined. Do you know anything about them?
So if I may be able to
Yeah.
address that, maybe I misspoke or misled in what a no-rise analysis is. It's not a zero impact. It's if I'm correct in my statement, it's an impact of no more than 1/100th of a foot, which is a 0.01. So you can have an impact within that reach. It just can't be more than 1/100th of a foot.
Is that the right number? How do you determine that that's, who determines that 100th of a foot is a risk worth taking or not taking?
The state guidelines.
The state guidelines.
The state guidelines have made that regulation for determination of a no-rise certification.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all the question I have.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
You referred to models. Those models, who performs the modeling and whose model are they going to use?
It's a great question. I know the answer, but I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to misspeak again. So I'll refer to Jinx as the technical expert.
Is it going to be the developer going to do the modeling, or is it going to be your organization, or
Go ahead.
some other?
It would be a hydraulic engineer, or just any civil engineer that's registered in the state of Tennessee. Generally speaking, somebody under their charge would get those models from FEMA. They would provide, they're called HEC2 files, and use the Army Corps of Engineers software, which is
Okay.
free.
So
And
they're
then-
the Corps models?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what I was looking for. I didn't know if it was your models or. So the
So
Corps
FEMA
model.
provides the data, but the Corps provides the software in which that data is analyzed.
And then that engineer can be anybody, or is it going to be?
They have to be registered in the state of Tennessee. But
Is somebody going to review the model results at the city level?
yes.
Oh, okay. See, that's not coming out in the presentation, I'm sorry.
There is just because sometimes the folks at the table aren't sure, or speaking aren't sure what we got in the packet, but the compensatory storage guidelines, which are kind of the handout that accompanies that, does describe the models and who reviews it.
I
So-
understand. I haven't had time to
Yeah,
review
I just
that
gonna
because
say,
we got
'cause
it so late.
Sometimes our folks don't know like what actually made the packet. So just to say that was, let them know it's in there too.
Now, you keep mentioning the citizens are going to get discounts.
Yes, sir.
And there's new maps are there citizens that may now be in a floodplain with the new maps that weren't?
Can you repeat your question? Are you asking,
I
are there
guess
citizens that were incorporated into the new maps that weren't initially?
Yeah, the new maps that came out, how
Mhm.
do the citizens know that they are within a floodplain now or not?
So different ways. We held multiple public hearings or public meetings to inform citizens that we had new maps coming, and we sent those letters, those mailers out to all the citizens or the constituents who were incorporated within the floodplain already, and
Oh,
the
okay.
ones who were proposed to be incorporated in the floodplain.
Okay, so you notified the folks?
We
Oh, okay.
did, and yeah, in that way, that was one way that we reached out to let them know. And the other way, which I'm finding to be a little bit more revealing, is they're getting either a letter or a phone call from their lender saying, hey, you need to obtain flood insurance that you didn't have before. And you know, when you get a call saying that, it's like, well, I got $300 added onto my mortgage. What am I supposed to do? And as a city, I feel like we have the opportunity to lessen that burden by incorporating these regulations that will not just help them on in the right now, on the interim, but it also sustain them throughout the life of their mortgage and their property. Because my hope is that most people will retain their flood insurance even after their mortgage company requires them not to, just so they're protected.
But I do have a question. I think, Mr. Maybe you had a question as well, so I'll let you go first.
Mr. Chairman,
Well,
I'll yield to you if
I
you'd
was
like
just
to
gonna
ask.
ask how the people who are now in a floodplain, they're not gonna benefit by any of these regulations, because these regulations only impact new development, right?
No, sir.
Well, I mean, if you're already in a floodplain, this isn't gonna change the floodplain.
It won't, but it will change the fact that you're paying a higher premium for flood insurance, and you have the option. Well, we will get a reduced flood. We will get the city will be entitled to all the constituents within the city would be entitled to new flood insurance policies at a lower premium, but they will also get afforded the opportunity to get discounts on that lower premium as well.
Okay.
Whether you're in the floodplain or not.
Okay. Mr. Maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess one, just clarification on what we're being asked to do today. Is this just a presentation on what we're doing, or is this an actual resolution for us to act on?
It's actual resolution for you all to recommend.
Do we have that resolution?
It's in your packet.
Okay. Yeah, I may have misheard that. So first of all, thank you for y'all's work on this. I definitely put a lot of effort into it. Particularly, I appreciate that y'all have taken some time to look into the effect on housing costs. A couple questions specifically on that, if I might. I believe in one of your slides you referenced the savings, but I believe it was from, can we go back to that previous one real quick? Yeah, the reference was from 0 to 2, but we're already at 1 foot. Is that accurate?
So that's a good question. We're at 1 and 2. So as I may have zoomed through it because a lot of time, but sure. We have 2 regulations in place right now. One regulation being 1 foot freeboard or 1 foot above base flood elevation for residential construction that's built on a slab. Mm-hmm. And for non-residential construction, whether it's on a slab or elevated foundation, okay, it's still a 1 foot freeboard standard.
Still,
but for residential that's built on an elevated foundation, you have that 2 foot regulation requirement. So we have 2 in place right now, and what we're proposing is the 1 foot. I mean the 1 standard of 2 feet above base flood elevation for all construction types.
Okay, I guess what I'm referencing is at minimum right now we are at a 1 foot above. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so really the difference is not from 0 to 2. It would be at minimum from 1 to 2.
That's correct.
Is that accurate? Mr. Schultz, could you go back to the other slide that you're just on? Thank you. Are those numbers based on the change between 0 and 2, or are they based on 1 to 2? In terms of how the cost savings you would get, does that make sense?
The cost savings are based on 1 to 2,
or based on 1.
Based on 1.
Okay.
So 1 foot above 1 foot above base flood elevation.
Okay. Okay.
You're talking about that? That's that right there on the green in the green.
In the green, yes,
yes,
sir.
that's based on the 1 foot.
from taking it from the 1 foot minimum to the 2 foot
That's correct.
across the board?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. That does help clear that up.
My apologies.
And no, and
My
go ahead.
apologies. It references right at there at the top, the 2 foot above. My apologies. I overlooked that. That references the 2 foot.
Okay.
Built 2 feet above base flood elevation. That's
So it would, those savings are calculated on going from 0 to 2 feet. Is that accurate? Or is it from 1 foot to 2 foot?
0 to 2 feet.
Okay, which we don't actually, we're not at.
We're not
actually, we're
at-
not, so
Correct.
it could be, those numbers are probably a little lower than that in terms of what the actual savings we'll see in terms of for insurance rates. If I'm misunderstanding, please correct me. I may be wrong here. But the way I read this is those savings are if we went from 0 feet to 2 feet, that's what the savings would be. Is that accurate?
Correct.
But we're actually going from a minimum 1 foot to 2 foot.
For some construction. You have existing construction that predates our ordinance requirements altogether, our higher standards altogether that are in the floodplain now.
Okay.
Or you have some that weren't in the floodplain that were
nothing
incorporated
voted.
that
Okay.
still may be at that zero base flood elevation or lower. So like I said, it's just dependent on, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of new development and where the higher standard is right now, for a new development, they may have already had to adhere to our higher standards when they made that development. However, for constituents who weren't incorporated initially, that didn't have to meet any higher standards when their property was developed, that got incorporated in, they may be at that 0, and now they're looking at saving $37,000 a year.
That makes sense. I appreciate those.
Thank you for clarifying
that
that, so I can
clarification
understand the
there.
question.
And I don't want to belabor this part of it too much, but something also just for our consideration is that while the construction cost analysis where it shows the increase in cost that we would have or that would be taken on, that's an immediate initial cost when buying the house. You know, the savings is over, you know, expanded out over a period of time. So I just think that is something to factor in. Something that I was excited to hear too is that there had been a real effort to notify residents in this process or property owners. So I think I heard where y'all said that property owners were notified if they were changing from in the floodplain or from without not being in the floodplain to being in, or vice versa.
Correct.
Have people, if we made any efforts to contact property owners that are going to be changes in regulations to their property based on this resolution? Okay, let me say again, I don't think.
Are you asking has the city reached out to the residents to notify them that there will be a change to the higher standard?
Yes, to these specific property owners that will be affected by it. And yeah, so that would be one question. The second question is, you know, do we have an idea of how much property will be impacted by this change?
After that, we have an idea of the floodplain size and the
How
amount
big is it?
of structures in the floodplain, but
How big is our floodplain in the city of Chattanooga? Do we know how many acres it is?
You have a second, I can pull it up on my computer.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Mr. Bird?
I had another question.
But I'm sorry, and because I jumped around on you, so I do apologize
okay.
there. But just that last part, have we notified property owners that are going to be affected by this resolution specifically?
My immediate answer is no, because we don't actually have a number on the property owners that would be affected. As I stated, the proposal isn't to make development more stringent. It's to allow for sustainability of our floodplain, of our existing floodplain, to highlight and also highlight the fact that the city is a part of or recognized or designated as a national park city, and allow for uses to reflect that. So we haven't initially tried to highlight the properties that aren't developed as of yet. Does that make sense? We're more looking at who's affected right now and how can we help them and help sustain our floodplain. We haven't gotten the numbers on non-developed properties within the floodplain, if that makes sense.
Obviously, the resolution was noticed with the planning commission packet through the website, through the newspaper, like we do for all kind of public meetings and changes. If, we get to the point where we're moving on to city council and we get this approved, we can absolutely do kind of like the community outreach piece of this to inform people of the discounts that they will have available.
Thank you for your interest.
Mr. Bird and then Mr. Highlander. And then
Yeah, this is kind of an edge case, but I could see it coming up. So we have zones in the city where the finished floor elevation is set by the zoning code. There's a minimum or maximum finished floor elevation. I'm curious if these two things conflict, if the base flood elevation conflicts with whatever the zoning code says, which one takes precedence, and how do we figure that out? And we can get ourselves tied up in knots pretty quick if you've got two parts of the ordinance that are telling you two different things.
I'm sorry, I missed the front part of that question.
You say where that is?
There's form-based code has finished floor elevation. And then the historic zones, I don't know how much those are near the floodplain or what the elevation is compared to the floodplain, but those are regulated in the zoning code.
Typically, the one with the stricter code would hold, but.
Well, that's the thing is stricter in this sense is.
It depends on which one it is.
Depends on which way you're going, because in the form-based code, they don't want the front door too far above the street. And so stricter in that sense is, hey, we need to bring it lower. But stricter in the flood sense is, hey, we need to bring it higher. It's two different goals, not just two different regulations. And so, I mean, we don't need to like hash out exactly how this is going to work. I'm just wondering when we've got a scenario where these two codes are in conflict with one another, which one yields? It's not an answer that we need right now, but it's something that concerns me.
It's something we
long-term.
can work on before we get to
Yeah.
council too, just to make sure we don't need to add any additional language. Yeah.
I think that's where the historic planning commission or the form-based code committee or the flood variance, that's what those bodies.
Right. And just opining here a little bit, it would seem that the flood elevation would probably want to be the one that controls, because that's like an environmental concern versus a placemaking concern. Not that that's not important, but one is a physical risk. But that would then need to be, I don't want to be in a position where I have to go before BOZA for something that should be automatic. So I think that should be explicit in here. If the base flood elevation conflicts with any other zoning code requirements, that one would control.
Dr. Highlander.
Thank you, Chairman. I realize I've been out of state 6 days and probably should have researched this a little better, and I'm not in my element here as some of you folks are, but I really wish I had more time to study this before I could vote on it. I mean, I like the concepts that you got. It really looks good, but I personally would hate to make a decision today on what I don't know right now. But that's just, is it possible, Chairman, to defer this?
I think we definitely could. Mr. Johnson.
I would
Mr.
support,
Lau.
I want to support what Mr. Highlander said, Dr.
I was
Highlander.
trying to do some research.
I've been here all week and I still haven't had a chance to catch up. And this is a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
One comment you made that I'd like to discourage, and that is we learned a very strong lesson during Plan Hamilton that we need to have the folks, the public and the citizens aware of what's coming at them. And passing this resolution and then telling the folks that we did that is probably not the best way as part of this commission, I don't want to be passing a resolution, telling the citizens after the fact, hey, here's the new law, surprise. So be careful. I think we need to be careful and let them know what's coming. So,
Mr. Lau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a couple of things that I'm And I completely agree with Dr. Highlander. I think there's good information here. I also don't personally feel like I'm ready to vote. One of the things that I think I'd love to see is if we're going to put construction cost data in there for it to be current. The asterisk at the bottom of the slide says that the costs are based on the flood program management study from 2017. And any of us that build anything know that between 2017 and 2026, there has been an astronomical rise in construction costs. And I would love to know a little bit more about, I mean, a rough order of magnitude, I'm spitballing, I'd say 50%, but I'd love to know dollar for dollar in 2026 moving forward dollars, what that cost increase is going to be. And then I think when we're tabulating costs, I guess one of my other questions is for the flood study, is there like a minimum threshold for where the ordinance would require somebody to have to then order the flood study? I mean, because like if I'm building one home, do I still need a flood study by a civil engineer versus like if I'm doing 4, or is it 6 or 8? Like where's that threshold? And I don't want to, ask for, rough order magnitude of professional services by the civil engineer on the group. But I do know that for the large projects that I've done where there has been impact to FEMA floodways, ordering a flood study has not been an insignificant cost because of the modeling that has to go into it. I guess so. One of the things is when we say that it doesn't have impact, if it's not required to have a civil engineer and do a flood study now, and then if it becomes required, I mean, I think that instantly locks anybody out from constructing their own home. It would sort of tilt the market in the direction of amassing large parcel development that would then, be able to afford that. And I guess it's just some of the various pieces to kind of consider. I would also, I agree with the commissioner. Maybe that was the first thing that popped into my head was I wonder what is the rough order of magnitude that we're actually talking about here for developable parcels that would potentially be impacted by this to kind of wrap our head around what that increase is. Because I mean, at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is insurance for the homeowner that decides on the structure. But I also hear the thought of the people that are currently non-conforming with what the new rule would be, that they might get a discount through this program. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I'm not ready to vote.
Yes, if I may. Thank you for your comment. I would like to say I got the numbers for you 1 second, but I want to address yours before I lose my train of thought. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is without some sort of obstruction. Even if we were to, there would be no way to not have some sort of impact in some form for whatever requirement that we put in position. Like right now, we already have higher standards for development that incur increase for the development. So what we're proposing now is not, in my opinion, something new. We already have these higher standards in place. We already have a 2 foot above regulation that's in place. When I look at these numbers of 269,521 acres in the SFHA, in the special flood hazard area, that's significant. When I look at the numbers of 66,385 buildings in the SFHA that have the potential to have a decrease on the flood insurance that they're required to maintain on these particular structures, that's a significant number. in comparison to the numbers that you were speaking about construction. So I go back to say, like, nothing is imperfect. Like, I hear what you're saying as far as the impact for underdeveloped or non-developed structures right now, but what we have is what we have, and if we don't impose anything, what do we get?
Sure. I guess I'm just thinking about like one of the cases that we had today down down there on Divine Street. That was commercial property. You know, there was some flood area on that property. They're gonna have to bring it up. And while, you know, 1 foot taller stem wall for slab on grade construction for a 2,000 square foot house doesn't seem like that much. When you're talking about 100,000 square foot warehouse, that extra foot of stem wall running around the perimeter of the building, even though the building is slab on grade, that's a significant cost. It may be enough of an offset for that to not move forward or something to happen there. So just thinking through some of the thoughts. I mean, I think one of the other things that I did have a little bit of problem with in the presentation that, as you go forward with it, Knoxville and Farragut are basically the same town. They'll be like, I mean, the Farragut is the smaller piece right outside of Knoxville. I mean, I have property out, in Clarksville, Tennessee, that was flooded in the 2010 Nashville flood, and am not, ignorant to what it means to own property in the floodplain. But I think seeing some other peer cities and seeing, some of the ways that they've handled it, this particular, and I was trying to do a little bit of research. I mean, you said that I think there's 20 other communities that have opted into this same program.
Correct.
It'd just be nice to sort of see, who they are and to kind of understand their situation as well. I mean, I think we definitely have our own unique situation here. And the various levels of leaders in our community are going to make a decision that will impact us for decades to come. And so it's just it'd be nice to see a little bit more information on that piece of it. But yeah, I mean, that's the reason I was wondering about the construction cost data. I mean, it's not just single family residential, especially I think that the change is impacting.
Absolutely.
What was the acreage area again?
269,521 acres.
269,000.
Say again, I'm sorry. Yes,
That's city.
That's
only.
correct.
So my concern in regards to the size of that number is just that we could be talking, and I think we're probably talking about the vast majority of that is undeveloped. There may be some buildings on that, but you said there were only 69,000 buildings across 279,000 acres.
Roughly 67,000.
67,000. So my concern would be that, to what Mr. Byrd said earlier, you've got large sections. I think it would just be helpful to be looking at a map when we're talking about this, and I will after the fact, but you've got large sections of like Alton Park that are undeveloped. We have one particular piece of property where we were planning to develop. If this regulation were to pass, I'm not sure he would even be able to develop it. But you've got large areas of our city that are impacted by this floodplain where we could make it very difficult to develop, and there's just not much developable land left in our city. And so areas like Rossville Boulevard could just sit forever like that, where property more or less becomes worthless because you can't develop it if we pass a regulation that makes that almost impossible. I did have one other question. What's the average depth of the floodplain in that area? Because my other problem with this is that sometimes I will look at a map, and on the map a corner of that piece of property or that piece of property, I just look at it on GIS and the elevation is 710. I don't know what the flood elevation, what's the floodplain elevation? Do you know what the flood,
What
it varies?
It
But
varies.
what I'll see is I'll see that, hey, the elevation of this is 710 and the everything that's out of the floodplain is at 711. And I'm like, for 1 foot of fill, and this is out of the floodplain. So I think sometimes we talk about the floodplain like it's, 10 feet deep. But yeah, I mean, there's how many thousands of those acres, the floodplain is 3 inches deep. And we're regulating it in a way that may not necessarily make sense.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way this would work is if you've got a floodplain that's 3 inches deep and you can consolidate that into an area that's a quarter of the size and a foot deep, that would meet the intent.
But you wouldn't ever be able to do that because going below the floodplain doesn't increase the size of the floodplain.
So if I may,
I mean, you see
forgot
what I'm
to
saying? I
mention-
mean, you couldn't like drill a hole and
Right, you gotta find a place that's like outletted to somewhere.
else.
Yeah,
which may
so
not
it only
more than
works if
likely.
you've got, as far as I can conceptualize, it only really works if you've got an area that's kind of half in the floodplain, half out. And you can pull
Increase-
dirt here to increase the amount you can build on and keep the volume the same.
Yeah.
I'm going to make one clarification first. That total acreage also does include the Tennessee River proper, which I think for all intents and purposes is undevelopable.
TBA says
but-
otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, shoot for the stars, but so one of the things we've looked at, and this is kind of where we're wanting to meet the development community halfway, is allowing for detention ponds in these developments where they're required to count towards the compensatory storage. And so you could look at it that, I mean, they're going to have water in them. So at the 100-year storm event, are they really providing that? But we're willing to make that concession in order to kind of make this more palatable.
But would that have to be outside the floodplain in order to?
No.
It could be
No,
in the
and-
floodplain.
And to Nathan's point, we're looking at this volumetrically, so you can dig down in the floodplain. We're looking, this excavation and fill are both happening within this floodplain, right? And so we're looking at cross-sectional areas, but it's volumetric, so you can take it and move it out. So you can just excavate further within that floodplain. As far as finding this average depth, I'm not sure if that data is actually available. That would be, I will look gladly, but I'm not sure if that is something that I would be able to answer definitively.
Ms. Burrs?
I appreciate the conversation and especially the experts in the room. I would lean towards a deferral so that we could get some of these questions answered because I think some of the questions are coming from the folks that deal with this stuff on a regular basis. Before it comes to city council, it'd be nice to have that conversation here so that when it does come to city council, the information's already pulled together. Not that questions won't come up when it comes before city council, but it's kind of vetted and discussed out here from folks that are more in that arena. And I think as a city council person, I would appreciate that and hearing those things out on the table versus hearing it for the first time when it comes before the council. So I'd like to make a motion to defer for 30 days. Is that enough time? And and then I'll need somebody's help unless we just pull it from the minutes of the information that we're asking them to bring forth to us to help us move to that next, that next step.
We do have a motion to defer for 30 days.
Yes.
And it has been properly seconded. Any discussion on that?
I've just got a couple other questions that'll be helpful for me while I'm thinking about this over the next 30 days. The compensatory fill and the finished floor elevation requirements, those are separate, right? Correct. So they don't, I mean, they'll play with one another in reality, but they're analyzed totally separately.
Correct. They just both feed into the CRS.
Right.
Higher standards.
And then in the CRS, are you aware of any mechanism by which certain areas of the city could be exempted while the rest of the city benefits, or is it an all or nothing? If you don't have an answer now, that can be something you bring back in 30 days.
Repeat the question for me one more time.
For the CRS, is there any way to exempt certain portions of the city?
No, sir.
Or does it has to be, it's all or nothing, either the whole city or nothing?
For the CRS program, as far
Yes,
as
to be
like high,
eligible.
as far as the higher standards is
Right.
concerned?
Right.
Yes, that's correct. It's,
Okay.
it's based on our ordinance and requirements.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Any discussion?
Do you all have what you, I apologize,
Go
I
ahead.
came
No,
out
go
of
ahead.
order, Mr. Chair.
No, go ahead.
Do you all have what you need from us as far as additional information to bring back?
I believe so. I've been taking notes. So, but we would welcome contacting us if there are questions that come up between now and then. We're happy to answer those.
If we send those questions to RPA staff, can they?
We can get it to them. And this meeting's also live stream. They want to go back or the audio, either way, but we'll be glad to send questions.
Or if y'all have business cards or something?
We work closely with that team, so we meet regularly.
Appreciate the presentation, all the information.
We do have a motion to
I'm
defer.
sorry, I
for
have one more
30
question.
days. Can we take action on the motion?
Sure.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
These regulations, it's all baseline 100-year flood
Yes.
that these are based off of. The 500 doesn't really have any impact here.
Not for us.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Maybe.
I'm sorry, before we vote, I guess I want to ask y'all, is 30 days enough to do it, to get all this information together?
I would assume so.
Okay. In addition to the information, I still just have a hard time kind of coming to terms in my head of, this is going to impact 291 whatever thousand acres, and that's people own those 290,000 acres. I don't know how we do it, but before I would feel comfortable taking action here, I want to make sure we've made a real effort to notify them that this is taking place. So again, can we do that in 30 days? And I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the entire board here. I want to make that clear.
I know a statement was made that part of that includes the river.
Okay.
And I'm
And
wondering
that's
if
a
there's
significant amount, I would assume, but
Yeah.
still it is a lot of property.
Yeah, I know enough about GIS to be dangerous, but I don't know if there's a way possible for GIS to eliminate the river, the waterway, the actual waterways from the.
Like you, I'm not an expert, but I believe they can. They can probably clip that out.
I can clip out the floodway,
But
which
yeah.
for all intents and purposes is going to include that, and that's not developable.
Which would give a little bit more accurate, rough order of magnitude to what that impact of number of acres would be of dirt.
100%.
And we can provide, I'm not kind of, maybe for the LDO team, maybe at the, as part of the update, just how outreach is going to be done. Obviously, they've been doing outreach as part of the program. And so there's lots of ways the city does outreach. And so maybe just coming back just to kind of say how that communication is happening moving forward too.
Thank you, Ms. Wren.
You expect like with rezoning cases, we do a mail out of the 300 feet. Are you wanting us to like contact every property owner by mail just so that, because something like that might take a little more time?
To start, like, is that insurmountable? Are we talking about,
we
it's
do
200
mail-outs all the time.
public notice. I agree. I don't know. I guess it's today, as of today, I don't feel like this room is empty. And that seems strange considering how much property we're talking about. I want to make sure we have made a concerted effort to let people know that there is potentially a significant change coming to how they can use their property. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly how you should go about that, but I just would like to have a better comfort level that we've done that.
I think if you would like us to pursue that more personal touch of a mail out, then 60 days may be more appropriate, just to make sure we have enough time to get everything to RPA, get everything posted in the newspaper, and get the mail out. We do mail outs all the time, so we can handle it. It's just a matter of getting it out. But
if that's the direction, we're happy to do that.
I think we'd like to know an order of magnitude on how many, I mean, is that fair to say? We'd like to know how many property owners are being
At
impacted
minimum,
by
I'd like to know that. And if it is something that is feasible, I think notification directly would be worth. But here again, I don't want to speak for the entire board here. That if there are other opinions, I'd like to hear.
I agree with you. I agree.
If we were rezoning somebody's property, we would certainly be telling them and hearing from them.
We appreciate it.
Do we need more than
Can we
30
revise
days?
to 60 days?
I think that's, yeah, that'll give us a little more time. Up to 60. Yeah,
That's even better.
perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend my motion to defer for 60 days.
Second, agrees.
We have a motion to defer for 60 days, and that has been properly seconded. Any discussion?
I just wanted to ask if the motion could be the amendment could be amended to up to 60 days to allow for, if everything works quickly, then they can come back in 30.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the motion for up to 60 days deferral.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Mr. Chairman, before we get started on staff updates, I got two staff updates that are not on the presentation, on the agenda. One is acknowledging Emily Wood. This is her last planning commission. She is taking a position with Land Development Office to do a development permit review. Friday's her starting date downstairs. We're gonna miss Emily. She's been at RPA for what, 9.5, 10 years, something like that. So ever since she's been here, she's been in some form or fashion writing staff reports. I'm gonna miss Emily. She's not going far. She's downstairs. She's made my job much easier by having here. We got Sarah taking her spot. So it'll be a seamless transition, but Emily's been a valuable asset to RPA. We're going to miss her. Second is Sandra. Sandra's retiring. This may be her last planning commission. We're not sure her last date. I'm not going to tell you how long Sandra's been here because she, sometimes it changes, but I think she's been here longer than the city acknowledges because she was part-time for a while, right? So Sandra's retiring at the end of the calendar year, which will be June 30th, but she may be gone sooner because she got a lot of PTO she needs to take. We're going to miss Sandra. Sandra's got a very hard job in that she sits here. She sits here and listens to this meeting and then has to go back and listen to the recording and type the minutes. So it's very tough. I don't know how she does it. It hasn't done it for years. We'll miss Sandra as well. So that's my two staff updates, but very valuable employees to RPA. We're going to miss them both. And then I think Karen's going to do a special presentation on Plan Chattanooga. And then number two, I have just give you a quick brief update on the Hamilton County subdivision regulation amendment that's on the agenda. That'll be on the agenda for next month. There's no substantial change. The only thing we're doing there is like we did today for the zoning code, just change any reference to RPA to the Hamilton County Planning Department. That's been advertised for next month. So that'll be the amendment for the subregs next month.
Karen?
Yes, and I will, Mr. Chair, I have about an 8-minute presentation. I can take a little longer if there's questions, but I'll move through it more quickly. Maybe the best use of time will be with questions. And so for Plan Chattanooga, we wrapped up most of Plan Chattanooga last May. At that time, we had a new city council, and the city council was in the budget session pretty much probably half of last year. And then we were busy with Plan Hamilton at the end of the year. So City Council asked to get Plan Chattanooga on the adoption path. We did a presentation to strategic planning a couple weeks ago and have done some updates since then. We've had a kind of a few hanging items that we've been addressing, and we are ready to start the adoption process. So Plan Chattanooga is not on today's agenda, but it will be on next month's agenda for adoption. And going through here, is a reminder that this is the comprehensive plan for the city of Chattanooga. Next slide. Excuse me, go ahead, next slide, and I'll come back. So Plan Hamilton is the comprehensive plan for the unincorporated county. Plan Chattanooga is the comprehensive plan for the city. And so we have, this is going to be the new comprehensive plan replaces the current one we have. There's a citywide growth strategy and then 8 detailed area plans for all areas across the city. Next slide. So the plan structure is a citywide framework. Again, this is a comprehensive plan. That citywide framework sets that we're all in this together, kind of one Chattanooga framework. And then the area plans provide a little bit more detail, and there's an implementation and a transit vision. But this provides updated guidance citywide for development and redevelopment. And this will replace that myriad of all those, some city plans are a little bit newer, all the adopted city plans over time. So this will sunset all the old plans. And so this will become the new document when we reference the plan. We are referencing Plan Chattanooga and then the kind of the more specifically the area plans as they go through this. Next slide. Oh, just one back. I'll send out the latest link to the plans, but when I talk to a resident about, I would like to look for my plan, I recommend they look at the citywide framework and then the area plan that's more specific to them. So that citywide framework gives some of the goals and policies and talks about the place types, and then we apply them in the area plans, and the area plans provide a little bit more specific guidance. But usually I remind folks to look at those 2 documents. Next slide. So why are we doing this? I think that we did quite a few presentations in the past few years about that we are growing and projected to grow more. We also have a changing population. We have the city's younger, more diverse, and made up of smaller households and smaller families. And also, the plan identifies that the city has commercial and industrial land that's underutilized that could potentially redevelop. And then I'll send this presentation to you. We did a presentation in 2024 that kind of wrapped up all the analysis and scenario planning as part of that presentation. So I'll share that with you just as a reminder. Next slide. So when we think about Plan Chattanooga, I kind of think about it, it's on a trajectory. It's tied to One Chattanooga. One Chattanooga is the Kelly administration strategic vision and plan. And Plan Chattanooga was developed to support the goals of One Chattanooga regarding physical development infrastructure. So it addresses the where and how to, so one of the One Chattanooga, I believe it would be a strategy, is to ensure affordable housing choice for all Chattanoogans. This talks about the where and how of how to do that, and then also improving local infrastructure. Again, the plan is trying to address the where and how of that. It's also informed by prior work. So mentioned it's sunsetting all those plans. Some of those plans are kind of old enough that they're, they're not the most helpful reference. Some plans are a little bit newer, but we did take a look back to that. It also incorporates the city's housing action plan. The city's housing folks did a presentation a couple years ago about the city's housing action plan, and also includes the city's parks and open space plan. So instead of recreating that work, it incorporates it. And also incorporates work done by the Chattanooga Housing Authority, TPL, the Design Studio, and CARTA over time. And then lastly, and this is probably should be the first bullet point, so it recommends policies and programs to ensure that the city continues to grow and flourish, building on all that existing work. So there are 4 goals, and I won't go into detail on those. I think these are kind of the general overall city goals that hopefully everyone can support: great places, strong neighborhoods, and broad housing choices, a robust transportation system, and connected natural systems and parks and greenways. And so this starts to kind of set there's analysis, there's the public input, And then so it's getting put together where there's four goals citywide for kind of the development of our community. Next slide. And that's more, we're starting to get more specific. And so I think we need to work on a graphic to kind of say, how does this all work together? So we kind of have those broad goals, and then we're starting to build this framework, which is really kind of the bones of that system. And it talks about these 5 elements, how we're going to get there. We're going to focus relatively more growth in urban infill locations. That's downtown and surrounding neighborhoods and along transit corridors. We're going to put kind of proportionally less growth in those outlying areas. We're going to evolve significant commercial areas into walkable centers. We're encouraging redevelopment of aging retail corridors. We're going to create neighborhoods with a greater mix of housing and better access to services, parks and trails, jobs and schools. We're going to limit development that would harm environmentally significant areas and maximize existing infrastructure. So again, we're starting to narrow down how we're going to do that. Next slide. So also accommodate has a list of objectives and actions. And so just going to pull out some, the ones highlighted I think are kind of applicable to a lot of the discussion we have here. Building walkable, compact, mixed-use centers at various scales throughout the city. Encourage redevelopment of underutilized commercial land, particularly along corridors. Preserve land for industrial uses in suitable locations. Develop a mix of variety of new housing, and ensure all areas of the city have access to high-quality parks and greenways. And some of those, again, are pulling from both the city's housing plan and the Parks and Open Space Plan. So when we have the framework, we kind of have some actions to get there. The corridors and centers approach is designed to support development when maximizes the use of existing infrastructure. And so this is identifying corridors. Most of those are or can be transit supportive corridors. We have centers where retail uses are concentrated. You can see kind of obviously identify on the map, Northgate there at the top, Eastgate Town Center at the bottom. Downtown is the big center, which is kind of that large reddish circle in the middle. That's the downtown core. But the idea is that we are going to, because we have areas, the transportation system, including transit, is able to has the supportive infrastructure. We are focusing development along those, in those areas. And then, so now we kind of have that framework. We've got this corridors and centers, and now placemaking is where we're really kind of thinking like painting and filling in the areas. So we're becoming more specific. And place types are used to describe form and character of future development. So some of these are going to look a little bit familiar, like a suburban residential. That is a place type you've seen before. It is described differently in Plan Chattanooga, but these are most similar to the old land use maps and old land use descriptions. Now they add a little bit more form and context. So instead of just describing the recommended land use of residential, it'll give a little bit more, gives a little bit more context on what that would look like. And then next slide. You should have a printout of the citywide place type map. There is the ability to go online and zoom in, so you can put in your address and check on these. But the citywide place type map, I think, just looking at that, to me, it makes sense when you think about that light brown being urban infill areas. That's our river to ridge area. The urban infill really has been treated a little bit differently, probably for the past 25 years, once we've had that urban overlay zone. We have the greenway during the development of the new zoning ordinance. We have the open space zone. We rezone property to that open space zone. That's a lot of that property is what is shown in green, with the idea that our land use and zoning align. So you're starting to see kind of the development of the system. The light yellow are suburban areas. That's the suburban residential development, which is primarily single-family detached with ADUs. There's some qualification in there if you're on a major street or near a park or school. And then regional facilities are shown in pink. Think about Enterprise South and the airport. And then you'll see our corridors are generally highlighted as kind of suburban, mixed use, or transit corridors, and kind of identify those in blue. And so when we're thinking about to kind of describing the city and the physical development of the city. I think kind of when you look at that overall map, I think it kind of aligns with how most of us probably would describe the city. Next slide. The plan, and I'm going to spend a little bit less time on this just because of time. The plan also talks about streets and transportation projects. So the place types also align with the street typology, which looks at mobility within and between places. And this is an example of a chart that they have in the plan. And so an example here is that a local street in a downtown core emphasizes people and places over moving people at higher speeds. So just an example of where you're trying to identify kind of the what is the character of the community and what is happening in that community with that corridor. And so this might be a good training on its own. But just to say it's in there. And then there's also transportation projects, a list of transportation projects. If you look at each of the area plans that are specific to that area. The plan does note, and we'll talk about it here again in a minute, that just a listing of the projects does not mean it's going to happen, right? It's the idea that, here are some possible projects coming out of this kind of overall assessment. And then the second item on the slide is the transit mobility vision. I'm going to take a moment to read this. Plan Chattanooga envisions an integrated transit and mobility system that serves all Chattanoogans. The system will provide a variety of mobility options that meet the varying needs of Chattanooga's residents, employees, business owners, and visitors. And I asked Brian to skip one of the first slides, which was CARTA. Charles Frazier is the executive director of CARTA. And we'll ask them to come back and speak a little bit more broadly to the transit vision, which is contained in Plan Chattanooga. But they've been a partner in this project, and I told him those are still a couple slides, but that we would like him to come and speak a little bit more to that. But this does get added into Plan Chattanooga, and there'll be a couple more slides in a moment. So the next slide, and one more, Brian. Oh, I redid it, sorry. So transit vision, while we were developing Plan Chattanooga, we noticed there was probably a need to better align with transit. When we developed the new zoning ordinance, we put a placeholder in for a transit-oriented development overlay. And we said, we are showing the intent to do something different along transit corridors. But we noted at that time that Charles Frazier had come on board. CARTA was still kind of working through their process. And so we put that in as a placeholder, knowing we might want to do something different in the future. So we worked with CARTA and Kimley Horn as a consultant team to incorporate the transit vision. It incorporates a variety of past planning work that's been done and creates a long-term vision, a 20-year vision. And then we'll have a similar slide here in the moment. For the rest of the plan, it doesn't define street level routing, mandate CARTA will implement, and it doesn't preclude CARTA from doing something else. These are Charles' slides, and he can speak to that, but just to say we're trying to pair transit a little bit more closely with the rest of the mobility and built environment decision-making. Next slide. So in that, there's also a network vision. Next slide. And transit supportive investments are listed in the plan. Next slide. And then just the mechanics. So I think, say this for every plan that we have ever presented to Planning Commission, that this is a focus on physical development. It does not change the zoning of any property. It doesn't commit the city to funding any of the recommended projects, but it does guide the type of development and redevelopment as we move forward. So this will be the document we reference when we reference zoning cases. Next slide. As you know, the Regional Planning Commission is required to have a general regional plan for the physical development of the territory of the region. Plan Hamilton for Planning Commission is the regional plan for unincorporated county. This was developed in tandem with the first kind of thinking through those scenarios. So Plan Chattanooga is the regional plan for regional comprehensive plan for the city of Chattanooga. Next slide. Next slide. And so the state law gives us all the requirements of how to move through the adoption process of a comp plan. So we're working on those, including everything that needs to go in the resolution and to get that to council. So we're working on that now. Next slide. with the idea of coming back to you in June with this on your agenda for adoption. So with July heading to council. So I think just a couple notes would be that City Council adopts plans by resolution. It is a guide. City Council uses them as a guide for their decision making. There'll be there's no requirement that it has to be completely in line with the plan. But City Council has noted their intent that they are ready to move forward with Plan Chattanooga. And so happy to answer questions or want to get into more detail later. I can also highlight kind of any of the recent changes that we've made for you. We spent a lot of time really kind of the 2 years prior to this. We took a break last year because of this kind of new council budgeting and Plan Hamilton. So we're kind of picking up, but I know that they might have kind of forgotten how we got there. So happy to answer any questions or what can I help you all with that might be helpful.
I've just got one quick question.
Mr. Bird and then Mr. Maybe.
Can y'all put together a map that shows how the Plan Chattanooga differs substantially from the existing land use? Would it be possible to highlight that?
We did it from zoning. We did, but we can do it from a land use map too. We, and I can share the zoning map we did. So that was one of the things council asked for us was, can you show the existing zoning map and then the place type recommendation? Because the colors kind of align, so you start to see a little bit of the change, but we can do a land use one too. I'll share the zoning with you all and then so you can kind of do the kind of before and after, and then we'll do land use also. We did do another round as staff of looking at the place type map. Again, and we kind of wrapped up last spring, and then we spent days taking another look at all the place type map because Planning Commission has done some recommendations, council has made decisions on some of that. And then just trying to wrap up with some council members, we did reference some older adopted plan areas that still seem to hold true, that gave a little bit more guidance than some of the broad aspects of the plan. And I can kind of highlight those too. But yes, we can do a land use map.
Mr. Maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you kind of answered my question. I was on the same kind of along the same lines as Mr. Byrd had in his question. But so we've adopted over the last several years some area plans like River to Ridge and stuff like that. Did those basically line up? Did y'all incorporate those into this plan?
They did. So so the two that would be most relevant would be the River to Ridge plan, which we did update. It's been a couple changes. I think one of the most notable changes, there had been an overlay for single family use only. There had been an overlay that sat on top, and we determined once the city adopted the ADU ordinance, we don't have a single family detached use only zone because you can have an ADU pretty much wherever. And there's a the map, there's a kind of a paragraph on the map that talks about that if someone was looking for that. And then for Area 11, which was East Brainerd, we did, as you know, we have had Pinewood and Mintom. We've had a lot of activity on those two corridors in the past year. So we did take another look at those corridors and got some and ran them by the council member just to make sure we're on the right path. So that area is a little bit different just because of the activity that's happened since that time.
Okay, so now when RPA is reviewing a case, they will not reference those plans. It would just be Plan Chattanooga.
Right.
It would be the guiding document.
That's correct. So when council adopts the plan, we would reference Plan Chattanooga. We did note in there's in the citywide, I believe it's the citywide section, or maybe it's the area section. Like West Side, we're still referencing. Planning Commission adopted West Side maybe 2 years ago. And as you saw from the plats coming through, West Side's under development, and we're using that plan to inform the work of West Side. So we kept that one. And I believe there's one other plan that was more recent we kept. just because it's updated, newer information, but it's specified in there that we will reference those. But for Plan Chattanooga, for the area, it basically says that's part of the downtown area. So for like West Side, you would just drill down a little bit to reference that plan.
Okay. One more question. Is the latest version of Plan Chattanooga posted online
It
now?
it was posted Friday.
Okay.
And we'll share that with city council members also. But yes, everything should be posted online now.
Okay. Well, just want to say thank you for getting that up so early, and I think it helps to have it available for us and the community to be able to see this far in advance from when we have to take action. So thank you all for being proactive on that.
And if there's any supporting documents, we will do that. I did notice the map, I don't think has been updated. I didn't have a chance to check that, but the map has where you can type in your address and zoom in, and you can just kind of, it looks like a regular GIS map, and you're just kind of checking the Plan Chattanooga section for that.
Thank you, Ms. Rennick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to do the Hamilton County subdivision regulation amendment?
Just something we're bringing next month, just to change where it says, reference to RPA, Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Agency, to change that to Hamilton County Planning Department.
Gotcha.
Just giving y'all an update. It'll be here next month.
Okay.
That's the only change.
Okay. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Hearing none, can I get approval of the Planning Commission minutes of April 13th? We have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It's your job. Well, it's really, Chenway has to do it. Sorry. There you go. You did good.